After taking down the Underlord, our protagonist really thought life was about to turn chill-like. Go home, marry 4 or 5 MILFs, and spend the rest of his days buried in bed, kind of chill. But nope. My prayers got answered, and turns out he was just bait. His so-called teammates stabbed him in the back, and boom, he died. But of course, he wasn't staying dead. Otherwise, how the hell would this manhwa even continue? So yeah, he gets reincarnated 15 years before his death. Now he's out for revenge. And by the way, with him, someone also reincarnated, and that was the Underlord, this half-goat and half-bat-looking fuck. So yeah, let's get into it. The manhwa begins with our main character, Aiden Alberio, famed as the strongest dragon slayer, ended the demon lord's reign with a final blow only to be cursed, losing his humanity and turning into the very demon he destroyed. In that moment, his comrades betrayed him, sacrificing him without hesitation to save themselves. Instead of dying, he awoke in an unfamiliar, lavish room, greeted by a woman calling him her son. He had been reborn as Aiden Reams, a duke's son, 15 years before his death. Memories of this life revealed a shameful truth. The original Aiden was a drunken brute who harassed women, picked fights, and survived only because of his title. Unsure if his past as Aiden Alberio was real, he checked his system. His powers from consuming the Berserker's heart and training under mercenary King Master Valken were still intact. Yet, in this world, no one knew Aiden Alberio, and even his servant Philip claimed Valken never had a disciple. Servants gossiped over his sudden politeness, thinking illness had changed him. Determined to find his betrayers, Aiden explored the estate and noticed Knight's training. Carl Reese, his younger brother and a respected knight, approached with disdain, mocking him for drinking and treating training as a spectacle. But Aiden simply smiled and challenged a knight to spar. Carl was stunned. His brother had never touched a sword. Facing apprentice knight Bison, the onlookers assumed Bison would fake a loss to appease Aiden. Bison, insulted to face a drunkard infamous for losing to stray dogs, prepared for what he thought would be an easy match. Aiden suspected Bison might intentionally throw the fight, so he warned him to go all out, adding that losing to a man like him would be humiliating for an apprentice knight. He even told Bison to kick him aside if he lost. Carl, convinced his brother had lost his mind, couldn't believe he was challenging a squire without ever holding a sword before. When the duel began, Aiden quickly realized his body was weaker than expected, yet he pressed on. Onlookers worried for Bison, who fought seriously, but their shock grew when he failed to defeat Aiden. Blow after blow, Aiden remained standing, sword in hand, the thrill of combat igniting a rush he hadn't felt in years. Carl and Bison were stunned. This was the same man once terrified of stray dogs. Years of luxury had dulled his edge, but in that moment, Aiden knew he was still Aiden Alberio, Dragon Slayer. The match turned fierce, both trading strikes until Bison began to falter. Gasps rose when the disgraced young master bested the squire. Aiden thanked Carl for the idea and vowed to spar regularly with the knights, urging them to train harder. Back in his room, exhaustion hit hard. His body strained from even a short fight, but he felt strangely refreshed. It was a welcome release of frustration, a reminder of his true self, and a step toward the revenge he planned to claim. Aiden knew he was far from matching his former companion's warriors, so skilled they could be called one-man armies. His enemies included Sylvetta, the Night King and heir to the Grand Duchy of Sears, Spia, the Iron Blood Saint of the Carnage Cult, and Callus, second Imperial Prince of the Immortalia Empire and famed great alchemist. Even at his peak, fighting them together was nearly impossible, so he planned to face them one by one, aiming to defeat them within 5 years before the Allied forces formed to target the Warlocks. But first, he had to rebuild this frail body into something capable of more than fending off a goblin. Calling Philip to his room, he handed him a list of herbs. Philip's curiosity turned to concern upon seeing deadly ingredients: hell lily, angst flower, lunatic grass. When asked why he wanted such dangerous plants, Aiden hid his true plan, slipping into his old intimidating persona. He warned of severe consequences for prying and, with a twisted edge, offered to make Philip his toy again. Frightened, Philip fled, promising to get the herbs. Aiden knew he wouldn't have resorted to such methods before, but as a duke's wealthy son, he had the resources to take a different approach. Besides, after today's spar, he'd reached swordmaster level with ease, proof he still had the skill, but needed strategy, especially since such vices were rare here. A month and a half later, while training with his sword, Philip returned, carrying his mana potion. The mana potion Philip brought was worth a month's salary for most, but as the duke's son, Aiden could afford it. It restored his strength after intense training. Confirming Philip had bought everything, Aiden returned to his room and checked the herbs. Every dangerous one was there. Callus and Shaula had once claimed such herbs could help unlock hidden potential, so, recalling he'd already survived death once, he began consuming them. Pain dropped him to the floor, yet he forced himself to continue, noting how his mana flow grew smoother. Suddenly, a familiar voice echoed. Servants rushed in but were ordered out, confirming it wasn't a hallucination. The voice belonged to the Underlord, who greeted him as Dragon Slayer King Aiden Alberio. Aiden demanded his identity and motives. The Underlord revealed he had no physical body. In Aiden's final moments, he had been on the verge of becoming the Underlord himself. Upon Aiden's death, the Underlord transferred his soul into his body, intending to revive by claiming his organs and viscera. Realizing the soul was inside him, Aiden considered killing it by flooding himself with holy power, or dying again. The Underlord quickly claimed he had changed. Aiden doubted him, remembering his love for chaos, but the Underlord explained it was due to the Demon Lord's influence, severed when Aiden was in the void. Calmer now, he explained the demon god known as the ultimate sin embodied all the world's evil, feared even by the gods. Once cursed to serve him, the Underlord denied orchestrating the current events. When Aiden asked if his regression into Rem's body was part of the plan, the answer remained unclear. The Underlord confirmed it was his doing. Whenever he possessed the dragon's mana, time would rewind. Aiden was stunned, but the Underlord explained that dragons were created by God to alter nature's laws, so such feats weren't difficult. When asked why he hadn't fixed his own situation in the void, the Underlord admitted he was tired and needed rest. A month later, Aiden trained with a scarecrow, uneasy about having the Underlord inside him, yet oddly comforted that someone knew his past self. Lost in thought, he broke the scarecrow and decided to find new training targets, spotting knights nearby. The Underlord teased that Aiden could be more villain than hero, prompting Aiden to threaten him with Holy Potion, which made him instantly back down. Aiden noticed a knight he didn't recognize until the coach called him Lo. Memories rushed back. Lo had been a chivalrous S-class mercenary who once saved him, but died fighting the Berserk Dragon. Realizing he might truly be in the past, Aiden approached and scolded Lo for informal speech, amusing himself by making the man nervous. Reading Lo's mind unsettled him further, and Aiden invited him to evening training, whispering something that left Lo shocked. That evening, Lo arrived and immediately asked how Aiden knew his secret. Before Aiden could respond, Lo burst into tears, asking if there was any way to fix his arm. During a casual drink, Lo confessed that if his right arm were intact, he might have been a great knight. Known as Nimble One-Armed Lo, his deepest wish was to regain its use, and Aiden planned to fulfill it. Later, on the training grounds, Aiden whispered that he knew Lo's arm was stiff, shocking him since he had never told anyone. Lo asked if it could be fixed, but Aiden explained he had vasoconstriction syndrome, a mana channel disease believed incurable. Still, Aiden claimed he could cure it, though only by forming a contract. The terms were simple yet binding. Lo would spar whenever asked and obey all commands. Lo hesitated, calling it a slave contract, but with no alternatives he agreed, ignoring the danger his instincts warned about. Aiden, inwardly scheming, planned to one day make Lo his slave and take his prized item. The Underlord smugly remarked that the Dragon Slayer leaned toward evil, but Aiden told him to shut it. Days later, they traveled to the small town of Marilyn. Lo doubted such a shabby place could hold a cure, but Aiden urged faith. They reached a house-like building with a signboard insisting it was not a clinic and had no medicines, herbs, or drugs. Aiden entered anyway, recalling that Lo once came here seeking help. While no cure had been found, someone here had researched vasoconstriction syndrome. They began searching for the owner, but the place remained silent. Lo noticed a painting and asked about it. Aiden explained it was the Philosopher's Stone, a so-called alchemical relic believed to trespass into God's realm. He believed there was truth in it, given he had defied death and gone back in time, though his knowledge came from Shaula and Callus. Soon, a figure appeared, and Aiden sent Lo outside. Alone, he revealed the woman was Kathy, a werebeast alchemist searching for a cure to vasoconstriction syndrome. He also exposed that she had the disease herself, surviving only through smoked herbs. Kathy admitted she hadn't found a cure, so Aiden handed her notes containing the solution he'd memorized from overhearing Shaula and Callus. She was stunned and requested half a month to make a permanent cure. Aiden agreed, but demanded her ring in return. The Ring of Speed, capable of tripling physical speed for 10 seconds 3 times a day, had once belonged to Lo and enabled his feats despite one arm. Though valuable, Kathy gave it up on the condition she moved to the Duke's mansion with food and shelter provided. Aiden boasted that as the Duke's scumbag, no one would question him. Returning to the mansion with Kathy and Lo, Aiden felt oddly at home until Philip came running in panic. He reported that young Master Carl had gone missing in Monster Mountain. Carl had gone to rescue someone lost there, but neither he nor several knights had returned for 2 days. Aiden knew the mountain was mostly harmless, but feared that if Carl didn't return, he might be forced into succession, ruining his revenge plans. A search party was about to depart. Aiden told Philip to arrange accommodations for Kathy, which surprised him, then asked Kathy for a favor. Requesting to join the search party, Aiden's father refused, until Aiden pretended deep concern for Carl's safety. Touched, his father hugged him and allowed it, entrusting him to Sir Spale, vice-captain of the Reims Knight Order. At Monster Mountain, they found signs of an attack. From the weapons, Aiden deduced goblins were involved, but their cunning suggested hobgoblins. He warned Sir Spale, who hesitated to proceed, yet Aiden insisted, ordering a search dog. Feeding it a scent enhancement potion from Kathy, the dog quickly tracked the trail to a goblin village. There, Carl and his team were imprisoned. Before advancing, they spotted 3 hobgoblins, formidable even for trained knights. Sir Spale advised Aiden to rescue the hostages and leave, which he agreed to, trusting the knights to fight. The search party charged, freeing the prisoners as Aiden broke the cage. Carl was shocked to see his brother saving them, praising his courage. With the hostages freed, Aiden told the knights to aid the search party against the hobgoblins and evacuate villagers. Just as he prepared to leave, Carl shouted for him to watch out. A giant monster loomed behind him. Thinking Carl meant the hobgoblin, Aiden turned too late and was struck by the massive creature. Aiden realizes the 3 hobgoblins mean a stronger creature is nearby, a troll, the deadliest of human-shaped demons. He tells Carl to escape with the villagers, insisting he can handle it as the elder brother. Carl still sees him as a good-for-nothing, but the troll attacks without mercy. Aiden fights back with his sword, yet the monster shrugs off every blow. Knowing his current strength isn't enough, he searches for another way. The knights panic at the sight, and Sir Spieler, bound by duty, rushes to help. As the troll strikes again, Aiden leaps away, the ring from Cassie gleaming in his hand. Activating the Ring of Swiftness, he gains 10 seconds of near-light speed. At 8 seconds, he slashes the troll's arm. At 6, he lands multiple wounds. In the next 3, he unleashes a relentless assault, and with the final second, he beheads it. Breathing hard, he knows this is the sword aura he must master, even with his imperfect body. Meanwhile, Sir Spieler orders his knights to assist until he sees Aiden bathed in the blue light radiating from his sword, leaving him frozen in shock. At first, Sir Spieler can't place the glow, then realizes Aiden has awakened sword aura, something he, a knight commander, never achieved. Aiden, drained from the ring's strain, collapses on a tree branch, startling birds. The 10 seconds of sword aura leave his body aching and trembling, and he resolves to use the Ring of Swiftness sparingly. While the knights search for him, he clings to the branch until found, and they all return home. The next day, Lord Raimi learns of the attack and orders compensation for affected families. Yet what shocks him most is hearing that his scandalous son slew a troll and awakened sword aura, confirmed by Sir Spieler in the Knights. In his room, Aiden meditates, channeling sword aura to grow his mana, but knows it's not enough. Determined to get stronger for revenge, he's interrupted by a strange voice. Before him stands a smug king of the underworld, a tiny, odd creature, half lamb, half bat. Aiden bursts into laughter, irritating the Underlord, who blames Aiden's weakness for his small form. Once Aiden calms, the Underlord reveals only he can see him and will manifest more as Aiden grows stronger. Disgusted, Aiden dismisses him and points out that Underlord is merely a cursed title passed to whoever inherits the soul of the previous one. When Aiden asks the Underlord's real name, the creature admits he lost it long ago, existing only to endure. Aiden names him Curse, since he's literally his curse, and ignores the Underlord's protests about laziness. Eventually, the Underlord gives in, and Aiden sticks with it. A week later, Aiden visits Cassie for news about the cure, but is greeted with the nickname Lord Troll. Irritated, he asks about Ro, and Cassie says he's inside. Aiden finds Ro emotional, able to move his arm again, and swearing lifelong service. Pleased, Aiden accepts. Cassie says her illness is unlike any normal syndrome and needs another month of research. He praises her, but her second Lord Troll pushes his patience. Ro's snort earns him a task manual labor, which soon leaves him sick. Unbothered, Aiden meets a merchant to sell the troll's corpse, knowing its rarity makes it valuable. He trades it for medicinal herbs, though the merchant hesitates at the poisonous ones. Aiden's cold reminder quickly silences him. Smirking at the easy deal, Aiden proves his mercenary habits remain. Philip arrives with news his father has summoned him. Aiden enters, only to find another guest with his father. The man chuckles, remarking that the rumors about him are true. Aiden is indeed the troll slayer, but when greeted warmly by the man before him, his face stays cold. In his past life, this same man bullied him for being a mere mercenary. Forcing civility, Aiden greets him, Margrave Tiri Cetus, guardian of the northeastern border and one of the Empire's few sword masters. This rank, the pinnacle of knighthood, grants superhuman strength, able to cleave mountains with a single swing. Aiden once held that title and now aims for it again. Cetus, impressed by Aiden's polite demeanor despite his reputation, praises Lord Rem for raising such a son. The talk shifts to rumors of orc raids on Cetus's lands. He adds that orcs have appeared near the church's slaughter tower in the desolate Westlands, sparking Aiden's interest. It may hide his old ally, the Iron Blood Saint. Cetus suspects coordinated monster activity across multiple territories and proposes an alliance. Then, Cetus invites Aiden to join his knightly ranks, shocking Lord Rem. Ignoring protests, Cetus vows to make Aiden the best swordsman in the West, impressed by his sword aura. After considering, Aiden declines, stating he respects Cetus's unmatched order but intends to become a swordmaster on his own. He had done it in his past life and intended to do it again. His expression turned arrogant as he challenged Cetus to a spar, determined to at least scratch him. Lord Rams nearly collapsed at his son's audacity, but Cetus, intrigued, unleashed his sword aura, making the air tremble. Aiden stood firm, unfazed, and baited him with a bet. If Aiden lost, he'd join Cetus's knightly order, but if he landed a scratch, Cetus would give him his sword. Cetus, stunned at first, laughed at the bold demand, noting how different Aiden was from his father who had already fainted. Underlord quickly realized Aiden's aim was Cetus's legendary sword, Bible, and Aiden admitted it. When both were ready, Aiden protested that using such a powerful sword against him was unfair. Cetus, skeptical, asked if he was an ogre or goblin, but declared that as a knight, he must fight seriously. Realizing Cetus was unchanged from his past life, Aiden set 2 conditions: no sword aura and Cetus couldn't move his right foot. Even with these limits, Cetus remained dangerous. The crowd gathered as the fight began. Aiden charged, his first strike aimed at Cetus's neck, showing real battle skill, but Cetus blocked it with ease. As expected, every relentless swing met Cetus's effortless defense. Cetus mocked Aiden's loose swings, saying they were fit for a lowly mercenary and offering to train him properly. Even Underlord sensed the deep bitterness between them, while Aiden's anger grew. Tightening his grip, he vowed to show Cetus the true edge of a mercenary's blade. Cetus, bored by the predictable patterns, was caught off guard when Aiden's strike nearly scratched him. Unbeknownst to Cetus, the style he dismissed was the Nightbreaker. Gasps followed as Aiden pushed him back, proving he really had slain the troll. Lord Rams couldn't believe his son was matching a swordmaster. Cetus finally took him seriously, recognizing the sloppy yet precise attacks aimed at his weak points. The match turned exciting for him, but when he raised his sword for a killing blow, Aiden dodged. Underlord warned him not to block such a strike. Cetus praised his skill, urging him to give up, but Aiden refused. Amused, Cetus welcomed him to his night order in advance. Aiden thanked him in advance too, then moved with sudden, impossible speed, scratching Cetus's shoulder. He claimed the sword as his, leaving the crowd stunned before erupting in cheers. Exhausted, Aiden faced Underlord's taunt about using a ring against Cetus, but he felt no guilt. Underlord called him a con artist rather than a hero. Cetus, despite losing, praised Aiden for hiding his strength. Pretending to be humble, Aiden still felt disappointed. He had aimed to take Cetus's arm, but only managed to scratch. True to his word, Cetus happily handed over his sword, and Aiden accepted it with polite thanks, hiding his inner grin. Underlord quickly taunted him, and later, in his room, Aiden inspected the legendary blade. When Underlord addressed him as Dragon Slayer, Aiden knew he wanted something. Smirking, Underlord claimed to know a secret about the sword that no human did, demanding a lifetime of devotion in exchange. But his smugness vanished when Aiden performed a blood pact with the sword, a hidden requirement. Shocked, Underlord asked how he knew. Aiden revealed he had seen Underlord's men wielding the demonic weapon. Balabul, the sword, was forged from the Lords of Corruption and contained their power. Awakening it required 3 steps, the first being a blood pact, already done. Underlord sulked like a child losing an advantage, only to quickly apologize when Aiden mentioned using his holy potion. Now aiming for the second condition, Aiden approached Lord Rams to join Cetus's investigation team. His father refused, saying the mission was far more dangerous than the mountains of demonic creatures. Aiden argued that Cetus would protect him. Cetus, sipping tea nearby, assured Lord Rams of this, but Rams still warned it wasn't a walk in the park. Wanting to safeguard his territory, Rams granted Cetus the favor, leaving Aiden grinning at how, unlike in his past life, Cetus was now serving his plans. Underlord scoffed, uninterested in serving the country. He only cared about awakening his blade. Aiden agreed but had no choice. The mission would let him spill enough blood to meet the sword's second condition. His eagerness to kill monsters almost made Underlord pity them. At the Pier mountain range, smaller monsters fled from larger predators. Aiden's group arrived at Attila Fortress, built to keep them at bay, only to find sloppy soldiers who looked unfit to fight goblins, let alone bigger threats. The gate opened to reveal Timon, the fortress chief officer, who greeted them but drew attention by calling Aiden Lord Troll. Whispers spread, debating whether it was due to killing a troll or resembling one. Ro bristled with anger, but Aiden ignored them, too high to stoop to such insults. Cetus casually remarked about the fresh air making bugs buzz, then glared at Timon until the gossip ceased. Timon reported strange monster activity in other regions. When Aiden asked about his own territory, Timon answered Cetus instead, assuring safety. Irritated, Aiden listened as Cetus reminded him that his land was home to demonic creatures. Timon explained that orcs in the middle range kept other monsters out, a logic Aiden questioned. At that moment, Underlord, sensing danger, warned that something big was approaching. While glancing under the bridge, he spotted something unusual and urged Timon to close the gate. Timon dismissed it as a joke, but Suze's serious tone startled him. Seduce then looked ahead grimly, confirming a wave of monsters was coming and ordered the soldiers to lower the gate. As they worked, a wolf slipped through, but he swiftly killed it before the gate shut. Ignoring the thanks, he told them to guard the gate, focusing instead on feeding life aura into his sword. Seeing the blades glow, the soldiers assumed he had slain the troll, drawing a teasing remark from Underlord. Ro hurried over, asking if he was okay, but he only pointed at the massive horde ahead, itching to kill and feed his blade. Bloodlust surged through him before he caught himself, recalling Underlord's warning about Balibel, the gluttonous sword that stirs primal hunger. Determined to stay cautious, he prepared to feed it, but Cetus announced he'd clear the monsters instead. Frustrated, he begged for at least some, yet Cetus slaughtered them all effortlessly, leaving him questioning his purpose. Timon thanked them for handling the threat with minimal damage, but Underlord then revealed the earlier warning hadn't been about the monster wave. Realization struck as he froze, looking up to see a massive fireball hurtling toward them. He quickly warned everyone to take cover as a massive fireball hurtled toward the city. Seduce, baffled by such powerful magic, suspected a mage, but Aiden knew better. It was the same threat that nearly killed him in his past life. Shock rippled through the ranks as orcs and trolls appeared together, sworn enemies now allied. Even Cetus was ready to face them, but Aiden cautioned that he couldn't handle it alone. Pointing past the horde, he revealed the true danger. A high troll, a monster with power and mana on par with a swordmaster. Cetus, sword aura blazing, ordered Aiden and Timon to evacuate villagers while he held the enemy back. But Aiden had another plan. Cetus doubted it, arguing the High Troll and its army were beyond him. Ignoring this, Aiden instructed Ro to hold the line with the soldiers, then quickly devised a strategy to target the orcs. He assigned Cetus a specific task, sparking Timon's protest that without Cetus they'd be crushed. A second fireball slammed into the fortress wall, shattering it. Cetus called Aiden's idea reckless, but Aiden urged him to trust him. Remembering their bet to save the territory, Cetus relented with a smile, warning that if they lost, Aiden would join his Night Order. Aiden agreed. Once Cetus left, Underlord asked if he was certain it was the same High Troll. Aiden confirmed only such a creature could force trolls and orcs, natural enemies, to work together. Meanwhile, the trolls advanced, mercilessly crushing the soldiers. Ro leapt high, aiming for a troll. In recent days, Aiden had fed him poisonous herbs to boost his strength, but these undead trolls under the High Troll's command weren't easy to kill. The High Troll, wielding a fiery staff, seized a dead troll's head and resurrected it, turning the fight into an endless cycle. Normally, it would take an archmage's magic and a swordmaster's blade to kill a High Troll, but Aiden had another plan. Calmly calling to his bloodthirsty sword, Balabel, he promised it a troll's blood. Ro watched in disbelief as the troll he'd just slain rose again. Before it struck, Aiden landed on its head, praised Ro, and drove his blade into its body. Ro warned that decapitation wouldn't work, but Aiden ignored him, urging Balabel to drink deeply. The sword drained the troll's life essence, killing it instantly, something even the High Troll hadn't expected. The kill left Aiden hungering for more, the feast greater than a pack of wolves could provide. Turning to the orcs, he considered quenching his bloodlust further. Soon he brought down 4 trolls, each drained but leaving Balabel unsatisfied. Enraged, the High Troll raised his staff, deeming Aiden worthy of his magic. Multiple fireballs hurtled toward him, but Aiden dodged swiftly. The High Troll's irritation was clear, and Underlord suggested he stop running and face the monster head-on. For Aiden, running wasn't just retreat, it was survival. His past life taught him that one fireball could end him, so he had to stall until Cetus returned. An orc's sudden axe swing drew Underlord's advice to drain its life force, but Aiden had other plans, keeping the orcs alive for later. His focus snapped back as the High Troll's blazing magic scorched the battlefield, forcing him to leap into the air with the ring of swiftness. Trolls burned everything in sight, but mid-air he realized he couldn't dodge another fireball. Luck intervened when Cetus appeared, shielding him with his aura blade and dousing the flames. Aiden was relieved to see Cetus had brought the Orc Chief. Just as his swiftness wore off, he began to fall, but the Orc Chief caught him, stunning everyone. The chief turned to his kin with tearful regret for failing them earlier, then rallied them to strike the trolls. The battlefield shifted. Trolls now faced humans and orcs united. The High Troll had controlled the orcs by holding their chief and children hostage, but Aiden, foreseeing their value, had spared them. Furious, the High Troll's plans unraveled as Cetus launched an attack. The monster countered with a fireball, proving Aiden's earlier claim that Cetus alone couldn't win. But now, with the Orc Chief, a swordmaster on their side, the fight had truly changed, much to the High Troll's growing rage. Cetus, frustrated, was eager to end the fight, but the High Troll wasn't going down so easily. Driven by vengeance for his slain parents, it gathered all its mana, preparing to turn itself into a deadly bomb. Assessing the danger, Cetus ordered the soldiers to flee, only to see Aiden charging forward instead, a manic grin on his face as he stabbed his sword into the troll. The fire magic inside grew unstable, and Cetus wondered if Aiden had any plan to survive the blast. Aiden's grin faded as the troll's overwhelming life force flooded into him. Unable to handle it alone, he reluctantly called for the Underlord's help. Amused, the Underlord agreed, on the condition Aiden avoided drinking holy poison for a week. The sword had absorbed enough life force, now they needed to awaken the dormant lord of corruption within it. At the Underlord's command, the sword's eyes opened, revealing the will of a starved, power-hungry king. Though the sword hesitated, it submitted when the Underlord asserted dominance, recognizing his reign as the one who had defeated all lords of corruption. With the weapon under his control, the Underlord reminded Aiden of his promise. Aiden drove the blade deeper into the troll, ordering it to devour its life force. Empowered by the awakened lord of corruption, the sword tore into the troll's essence as it roared in defiance. A tornado of raw power swirled as the High Troll's essence was devoured, forcing Cetus to warn everyone to brace against the winds. When it finally cleared, Aiden stood drenched in sweat, trembling under the crushing mana from the Sword of Gluttony. His body couldn't process it all, and he collapsed, violently nauseated. The Underlord mocked him for not discarding the excess, but Aiden's greed refused to let go of any power. Then he spotted a phoenix egg, its life nearly extinguished by the troll's fire magic. Hunger flickered in his eyes as he decided to consume its magic. The Underlord acknowledged the benefit but warned of the risks. Before Aiden could act, Cetus struck his back, forcing the excess mana out right onto the egg. Cetus recognized the egg instantly, while Aiden mourned losing the mana he'd fought to keep. He still tried to absorb it, but the phoenix chick hatched instead. The Underlord dryly suggested Aiden's vomited mana saved it. The majestic bird stunned everyone, even Cetus, though Aiden remained annoyed. To everyone's surprise, the phoenix perched on his head, a golden aura engulfing him. At first, it felt like burning, and he panicked, worried it had sensed his earlier intent to devour it. Aiden quickly realized he wasn't burning. The Underlord explained that the Phoenix, saved by the mana he expelled, now viewed him as its savior and granted him fire resistance. Aiden's expression hardened as he considered using it against his fire mage companion. The Phoenix soon took flight, leaving Cetus to check on him, half expecting he'd been set ablaze. Cetus remarked dryly that life had been chaos since Aiden arrived, while Aiden feigned ignorance. Turning to the Orc chief, Aiden asked why he was here. The Orc vaguely admitted to breaking an oath and offered his head in penance. Aiden learned that long ago the Orc lost a duel to the head of the House of Rems and swore to retreat into the forest to guard the land. Now, having left it, he believed he had broken that vow. Recognizing Aiden as a descendant or even heir, he offered his life. Aiden refused, which only angered the proud warrior, who insisted debts must be repaid. For a moment, Aiden considered granting the wish just to silence him, but decided the Orcs were too valuable for protecting the territory. Then greed sparked an idea. With a sly glint, he proposed an alternative. The clueless Orc agreed, unaware of the trap. Soon, Cetus was stunned to see soldiers grumbling over labor while the Orcs cheerfully hauled sand, unknowingly roped into Aiden's scheme. Since Aiden spared the Orc chief, the Orcs were now paying the debt by handling all the bridge repairs, free labor that benefited everyone except the Orcs. Watching the scene, Cetus muttered that Aiden sometimes sounded like a 1,000-year-old dragon. While observing the repairs, he advised Aiden to leave the rest to the slaughter tower, especially with monster activity from the wasteland increasing. After a brief thought, Aiden agreed he'd gotten what he came for, plus a phoenix blessing. Back home, however, he was grumpy. The crowd cheered like he'd slain a god, someone even handing him a girly flower crown. Wildly exaggerated tales deepened his frown. He hated flashy parades and had no clue who started the rumors. The Underlord taunted him but then genuinely noted the people's admiration, earning only a scoff in return. After enduring the unwanted welcome, Aiden visited Cassie, learning her condition was worse than Rose's. Determined, he offered to pay whatever it took, but she explained the cure required an apothecary from the Imperial Palace. She thanked him, but he still vowed to find an expert. Ignoring her doubts, he showed her the ring he'd gotten from her, adding that he had invested too much time and money in researching her disease to stop now. He wanted to see if the cure would work, meaning Cassie should stay alive as his pet project until then. His blunt words oddly moved her to tears. She had suspected his motive, but with no choice, she accepted. Until now, she believed her illness was incurable. Everyone had told her so gently, but his cold certainty carried unexpected warmth. Smiling, she asked for the best apothecary, claiming she had perfect research. As he left, the Underlord joked about his sudden change of heart, wondering if he was dying. He replied that a mercenary's word mattered, and this doctor seemed short on time. 3 days later, he reached McKellen City, once a vibrant free trade hub, now bittersweet in his memory, for a mad dragon had destroyed it in his past life. In the slums, goons threatened the blonde apothecary for failing to produce more than one high-grade miracle pill a week. They warned his collateral would suffer if he missed tomorrow's delivery. Just then, Aiden arrived, loudly offering help to victims of scams or threats. The boss sent his bulky lackey Karen, who tried to intimidate him. Aiden ignored him, asking the apothecary if he was being threatened. Annoyed, Karen swung, but Aiden punched him into a wall. Stunned, the goons froze as Aiden told them to step aside so he could serve his customer. The boss confronted him, but instead of fighting, Aiden yanked down his pants, revealing girly teddy bear boxers, sparking furious humiliation. The boss planned to teach Aiden a lesson but froze when his blade shattered under Aiden's strike. Fear replaced rage as he realized Aiden could wield sword aura. Yet, Aiden was more annoyed that the man called him a troll again, so he beat him senseless. The other goons were stunned to see such a figure in the slums. Turning to the apothecary, Aiden proposed a deal, though the man, Joseph, feared a scam. With no choice, Joseph nearly begged for help. His tale was grim. His daughter, Alice, had been kidnapped by the Severus Guild, forcing him to supply a miracle pill weekly. In Aiden's past life, Joseph had been a client seeking revenge after the guild killed Alice despite years of compliance. This time, Aiden intended to change the outcome. Joseph vowed anything in exchange for her rescue, unknowingly sparking Aiden's greed. Dismissing criticism of his gluttony, Aiden called his terms fair. Spotting a goon sneaking off, he caught him and extracted information with minimal effort. The scene shifted to the Severus Guild office, where the master awaited 2 miracle pills, even considering taking one himself. His grin faltered when a bruised subordinate entered, followed by Aiden stepping in casually. Calling Aiden foolish for walking into a tiger's den, he triggered an emergency mana alarm, confident reinforcements would arrive. When no one did, panic set in. Aiden revealed the sleeping guild members were already unconscious. The guildmaster's expression shifted when Aiden warned he wouldn't be sleeping tonight and demanded Alice's whereabouts. Ankle guessed Joseph had hired him but still charged, claiming to be the guild's strongest. Moments later, he was seen battered, unlocking the prison cell holding Alice. Aiden was disgusted they caged a child, but quickly sensed she wasn't ordinary. She proved it by kicking Ankle back, vowing to kill him. Aiden realized the man must have been powerful after all. The Underlord noted Alice's special ability. She tried to attack Aiden, but he remained calm, saying he was there to take her to her father. Her anger melted when she heard this, and she tearfully hugged him, admitting her fear. Even the Underlord was surprised by Aiden's empathy. Reunited with Joseph, Alice's father apologized, and later Aiden tucked her into bed. Joseph thanked him, but Aiden reminded him this wasn't charity. He wanted Joseph to keep his end of the deal. When asked his price, Aiden replied by questioning the worth of his daughter. Joseph swore he'd give his life for her. Aiden then revealed he didn't want money, but Joseph's apothecary skills. Realizing Aiden already knew who he was, Joseph agreed to repay him. Opening a box, he revealed a glowing miracle pill, which Aiden recognized from his past life. Joseph explained it was the product of his life's expertise. Barely restraining his excitement, Aiden asked if he could truly have the pill. Joseph insisted, calling it part of the repayment. The Underlord scoffed at his drooling, unaware of the pill's potency. Aiden swallowed it, mana surging through him, instantly recognizing it as a high-grade miracle pill capable of doubling mana in one dose. Realizing he hadn't even asked Aiden's name, Joseph panicked when introduced to the infamous Lord Troll, a title that irritated Aiden. Asked his purpose, Aiden explained he needed Joseph's help in exchange for House of Rand's protection. They traveled to Cassie's lab, where Joseph diagnosed severe mana depletion, a condition he'd never seen. Her beast genes were the only reason she'd survived. Studying her research, he believed a cure was possible but noted the nearly impossible to find ingredients. One crucial component was a rare fire element to melt her frozen mana channel, usually from a dragon's heart or phoenix feather. Cassie said acquiring such a thing was impossible, but to their shock, Aiden casually produced a phoenix feather, explaining it came from a blessing he'd once received. Joseph accepted it, promising the cure within 2 days, while Cassie shed a tear, seeing real hope for the first time. Philip knocked on the door, informing Aiden that his father had summoned him. Sweat broke out as Aiden remembered slipping out without notice. Soon, he stood before his father, who asked about his trip to Mechlin City. Aiden explained it was for business and apologized, but instead of a scolding, his father handed him an invitation to the imperial banquet for the crown prince's birthday. Normally, Carl attended such events, but he had refused, claiming he was busy and everyone wanted to see Aiden instead. Aiden almost declined until he remembered it was the year 450 of the imperial calendar, tied to a critical event from his past life. Surprising his father, he agreed, claiming he would go since Carl couldn't. Outside, his underlord guessed there was more to it. Aiden revealed that in year 450, dark mages would attack the banquet, and among them would be the Silver Witch, someone he wanted to recruit. She was unlike the radical Chaos faction and had led the Florence Flames. In his past life, he'd killed her, only for her to die regretting she hadn't reformed her family's dark magic. This time, he intended to change her fate. The next day, Aiden set out with a large entourage, puzzled at the numbers for a mere birthday celebration. Ro explained it was to show power and uphold the house's dignity. Yet, Aiden questioned why they were following Ro's plan to stay in a village when a shorter route was available. Aiden claims he wants a slow journey, but in truth, he plans to meet Joseph for more miracle pills. Joseph can't make another, as the key ingredient Tears of Ant is nearly extinct. In the present, Aiden thinks of someone who might know about them and remembers a gift left by his master. Ordering his crew to stay put, he says he'll visit someone in the village. When Ro offers to escort him, Aiden bluntly says Ro is weaker and not needed. Heading into the woods, the Underlord guesses he's meeting someone privately. Aiden admits even after reincarnation, he still can't fully read his master's mind. His eyes land on a large heart-shaped stone, bringing a nostalgic smile. The Underlord suspects it's unnatural, and Aiden recalls it was crafted by his master, proof of his odd taste. Convinced there's more to it, he slices it open despite the Underlord's protest, revealing a hidden dungeon. His master, he explains, believed disciples should grow stronger by facing death. Inside, zombie-like monsters swarm. The Underlord remarks on the apparent animosity between them, and Aiden recalls once thinking his master wanted to kill him during this same trial. Now, facing the dungeon's boss, a lich, a dark mage turned undead, he feels grateful for the training. In his past life, defeating the lich was a struggle. This was no foe for amateurs. The lich arrogantly warns they'll join his undead army, but before he can finish, Aiden charges in, ready to end him. Aiden knows the undead army is tied to the lich, so killing it will likely make the zombies vanish. Confident from slaying many liches in his past life, he charges, defeating this half-fledged one in a single strike. Crumbling, the lich regrets dying before seeing its dark mage kingdom rise. As the zombies disappear, Aiden notices a shiny locket. He denies it's a gift from his master, though the engraved pattern makes him decide to keep it for later inspection. The Underlord suggests taking the lich's bone powder to attract the rare ant Aiden seeks. Annoyed but knowing little about the ant, Aiden complies, warning of consequences if it's a trick. He saves all the loot, then heads for the hidden room where his master's true gift should be. The Underlord argues that gifting a dungeon with a lich inside is already insane. Inside, they find a gleaming shield, one Aiden once wielded to defeat the Underlord in his past life. It is the spirit shield of the Banshee, housing the Banshee's soul, powerful enough to drive its user mad. Aiden now realizes it caused some of his past instability, yet he still chooses to claim it. Touching it, he recalls its unique ability to transform into a bracelet until needed for battle. When Aiden wears the shield, the Banshee's shriek echoes, but he feels only nostalgia, having carried it for years. The Underlord mocks him for missing such a sound, calling him as insane as his master. With the gift claimed, Aiden calls out to someone he knows is waiting. A rabbit-like spirit appears, introducing himself as Rabbits from the Friendly Sprite Trading Company, part of a greedy network of spirit merchants who rush to trade dungeon loot. Rabbits tries to buy the shield, but Aiden refuses, instead asking for the location of the ant on the western continent. Intrigued, Rabbits demands 2,000 gold for the intel, only for Aiden to offer double, then twist the deal by demanding both the location and 4,000 gold. Rabbits, stunned, suspects Aiden's gone mad after the fight. But Aiden, recalling his master's teachings, knows how to exploit spirit merchants. He offers Rabbits something irresistible while threatening to destroy the dungeon core if the deal isn't made. The scene flashes back to Aiden's past life, when his master showed him a dungeon core hidden in a giant tree. It looked worthless, but the master explained it was the true treasure spirit merchants coveted, and the real reason they had come to the dungeon in the first place. Neither Aiden nor his master truly knew how spirit merchants used a dungeon core, only that it was a prized treasure for them. When a mercenary cleared a dungeon, they had rights to sell everything inside, core included. His master even joked that if no merchant would buy it, Aiden should just smash it. Now, Aiden waited impatiently for Rabbit's decision. The merchant fidgeted, knowing that if his superiors learned he traded money and information for a dungeon core, he'd be humiliated. Yet if he returned without it, the hat merchant's extermination letter awaited him. As Aiden's hand moved to his sword, Rabbits finally surrendered, buying the core. Aiden walked away with 4,000 gold and the promised information, certain he had outsmarted Rabbits. Though the sly merchant had sent him to an ant nest, no one survived. Returning to his crew, Aiden found Ro worried after half a day without word. Relieved to see him, Ro's warmth only made Aiden wish for his old hostile demeanor. With a sharp remark, Aiden ordered them straight to the capital. Meanwhile, the Silver Witch entered the same dungeon seeking the Banshee spirit only to find it empty. Someone had already taken it. The next day, Aiden's carriage rolled into the capital, Immortality. Dressed impeccably, he stepped out, met by a butler who, despite low opinions of him, guided him to a lavish palace suite. Dropping onto the extravagant bed, Aiden let out a satisfied sigh. Aiden's expression turned serious as he considered the threat of a dark mage assault, a danger that had claimed countless lives in his past life. Underlord asked if he planned to warn anyone, but Aiden refused. This was a rare opportunity. When Underlord accused him of not caring about casualties, Aiden retorted that he was a hero and had a plan. At the evening party, laughter and chatter filled the hall until Aiden entered. Whispers spread, accusing him of stealing credit for killing a troll. Watching their hostile faces, Aiden recalled receiving the same treatment in his past life, realizing that envy was universal. He ignored them, focusing on the three individuals that mattered, one of whom stood before him. A half-drunk man swirled fine wine, lamenting that Mage City lacked such quality. This was Gustav Dora, chief mage of Anguis. Aiden greeted him politely, only to be dismissed with arrogance. His usual charm failed, so he shifted tactics, mentioning a book on magitech. Gustav's interest lit up instantly. He was shocked that Aiden not only read it, but appreciated it. Their conversation quickly turned into a deep dive into magitech. Gustav beamed, thrilled to find someone who understood what most elders in his kingdom dismissed. Aiden feigned admiration, enduring the endless lecture while Underlord begged him to silence Gustav. With ears metaphorically bleeding, Aiden told Underlord to pretend he didn't have any. Underlord couldn't fathom why he needed such a magitech-obsessed man, but Aiden knew its future value. His foresight drove this seemingly tedious encounter. Underlord began realizing that Gustav would indeed gain fame in the future, but for all the wrong reasons. Known as the Mad Mage of the Tower, Radical Gustav Dora, he would one day cause a catastrophic magitech accident, lose his aura, be banished, and eventually destroy the Mage Tower in a revenge-fueled rampage before being stopped by the Mage Shora. Meanwhile, Aiden endured Gustav's endless rambling. When accused of being bored, he politely denied it, calling the talk enlightening, but eventually suggested they continue later. Just as he turned away, someone called his name, a striking young man who seemed familiar. This was Tien Sadis, accusing Aiden of stealing his family heirloom. Unfazed, Aiden claimed ignorance, but Tien shouted that he would never forgive him. When Gustav asked if there was a history between them, Aiden said this was their first meeting, until the mention of Sedis made him recall the connection. He greeted Tien politely, but the man wasn't swayed, accusing him of scamming his father to take their family sword. The crowd soon noticed the blade, recognizing it as Sedis property, and whispers spread that Aiden might not have killed the troll by his own skill. Aiden calmly explained it was won through a fair bet, but Tien dismissed the idea, claiming a nobody like him could never beat Sedis. Annoyed, Aiden still held back, warning Tien about his disrespect. Underlord was amazed at his restraint, but Aiden reminded him that brawling here would cause unnecessary trouble. Tien, still fuming, challenged Aiden to a duel. Loser would kneel and apologize, and Aiden would return the sword. With a wide, unsettling smile, Aiden replied that dueling at the Crown Prince's party would be rude. Just then, Crown Prince Mars appeared, instantly drawing bows from everyone. Both men apologized, but Mars waved it off, smiling as he declared he actually wanted to see them fight. Known as a battle fanatic, despite his aptitude for ruling, Mars insisted the duel would be his birthday gift. Tien eagerly accepted, driven by jealousy that his usually critical father had acknowledged Aiden. He believed Aiden had tricked him and saw this as the perfect chance to expose the scammer. Noticing Aiden shaking, Tian assumed it was fear, but in truth, Aiden was barely containing his excitement, masking it with reluctant compliance. Underlord reminded him Tien was just a teenager, yet Aiden remained eager to teach him a lesson. Mars set the rules. No sword aura or artifacts. Tien promised an honorable match and vowed to reveal Aiden's true self. Aiden, appearing lazy and disinterested, simply told him to start. Fueled by anger, Tien charged, certain he could end the fight in one strike. But before he realized what happened, Aiden's sword came down squarely on his head, leaving the crowd stunned. Aiden casually claims the sword slipped from his hand and Tien just happened to be in the way, calling it a draw. Mars agrees and tells them to focus. Fuming, Tien admits it was foolish to underestimate Aiden, whose smug expression only enrages him further. Declaring he'll attack properly this time, he charges, but Aiden calmly warns that no matter how Tien fights, he still can't win. Frustrated, Tien unleashes a flurry of strikes, yet Aiden dodges with ease. Observing his form, Aiden notes Tien's swordsmanship is technically flawless but lacks the raw strength of his father. It feels more like a child imitating rather than mastering the art. Humiliated, Tien steadies himself, only for Aiden to suddenly lunge with real killing intent. Panicked, Tien tries to block, but Aiden feints and strikes him clean on the forehead. Underlord assumes Aiden might spare him for Sadis's sake, but Aiden sees Tien as a stubborn beast needing to be tamed. Staggering, Tien refuses to accept defeat, claiming the pride of a Sadis, yet he doesn't know he's facing the mercenary king's Nightbreaker style. Aiden finishes him decisively before Tien collapses into a friend's arms. Sylvain Sias, younger brother of the Night King and traitor from Aiden's past life. Introducing himself as Dare Sias, son of Grand Duke Sias, he represents the Grand Duchy of Sias, a fortress guarding the northern edge of the continent, famed as the Sword of the North. Every Sias heir has become a sword master, making their name synonymous with unrivaled military might. In the House of Sias, leadership isn't inherited, it's earned on the battlefield. Only the most skilled warrior claims the title of head. As Aiden studies Dare, he wonders if he'd already be a swordmaster had he been born a Sias. Even among such talent, Dare shines as a genius. Underlord urges Aiden to meet him, but Aiden sips his juice, waiting for the right moment. He soon feels stares from behind and turns to find the same nobles who once dismissed him, now scrambling to introduce themselves. His patience snaps when someone calls him Lord Troll again. Escaping to the balcony, he's met with Underlord's question about whether he's disgusted by these hypocrites. Aiden calmly says it's human nature to use others for personal gain, even warning that Underlord shouldn't trust him too much. When Underlord insists he does, adding Aiden has more troll traits than human ones, Aiden's irritation grows. Their banter ends when a woman confidently enters his secluded spot, asking if his swordsmanship was that of the mercenary king. Aiden tenses, someone recognized it. But sensing her aura, he grins. She admits she's never seen it, but heard it can break any defense, adding the mercenary king could have been a famed knight. Aiden recalls his master's disregard for titles unless gold was involved and agrees politely. Complaining about the dullness of formal events, he inwardly drops the real revelation. He knows exactly who she is. Her face may be altered, but her aura is unmistakable. They fought each other hundreds of times in his past life. Without hesitation, Aiden addresses her by name, Nikita Florence, the true Silver Witch. Before she can reply, a sudden flare of magic rises from below. At first puzzled, she then recognizes a carved formation used to summon the undead, shocked that the Chaos Organization would go this far. Aiden finds it predictable and tells her they must kill the caster to end the spell, urging her to handle it since she's here to deal with the Dark Mage faction. Though curious about his identity, she decides to confront him later. Leaving the matter to her, Aiden returns to the banquet hall, where knights form ranks against the undead. Tien fights zombies with skill, prompting Underlord to note his advanced sword aura. Aiden agrees but says Tien's choice of opponent was unfortunate, especially with a best friend and prodigy like Dare making him look worse. An undead troll appears, and before Tien can call for help, Dare cuts it down with ease. Underlord observes Dare is close to becoming a swordmaster. Aiden adds he's already near semi-master level. Tien's misfortune only deepens. Underlord admits he hasn't helped, claiming he's watching how they handle the fight. Outside, Tien and Dare battle the undead army until Tien senses a dark aura, the Death Knight. The creature targets Dare, but Aiden intercepts the blow with his Banshee shield. He has been waiting for this moment, recalling in his past life how this monster ruined the banquet and killed Dare. Only the Banshee shield could counter its dark magic. The Death Knight's fixation on Dare confirms Aiden's suspicion. The undead's real mission is not an all-out attack, but to isolate Dare from the others. The entire chaotic scene is revealed to have a single purpose: assassinate Dare. Aiden blocks another strike from the Death Knight, whose skill rivals a semi-swordmaster, making defense exhausting. He asks Dare if he sees any chance to land a hit. Dare, mid-assault, admits his spear is effortlessly deflected. Aiden agrees, noting dryly that the knight's magic feels semi-master level. But one question lingers: who would want Dare dead badly enough to summon an undead army? The realization hits: Dare's brother, Sylvetta, desperate to escape living in Dare's shadow. In the Sias hierarchy, leadership favors the deadliest, not the eldest. Sylvetta's ambition drove him to kill his own brother and secretly ally with dark mages. Meanwhile, Dare struggles. Their plan to defeat such a creature isn't working. Calmly, Aiden says he has a plan born from experience facing stronger foes. Dare asks its name. Aiden calls it the annoyance strategy. Though unimpressed, Dare reluctantly agrees. Underlord notes even Aiden gets annoyed sometimes, which proves the tactic's effectiveness. The Death Knight, impatient with their discussion, lunges at Dare, but Aiden blocks with his shield. Bitterly thinking of Sylvetta's treachery, he resolves not to let him win this time. The Death Knight, growing visibly irritated, demanded Aiden step aside, but Aiden stayed put. Dare unleashed a sword aura attack, pushing the Death Knight back, impressing Aiden. This power was nearing semi-masterclass. As Dare lost sight of the enemy's aura, the knight leapt for a fatal strike, only for Aiden to intercept effortlessly. Mocking faces from Aiden only fueled the knight's fury, prompting him to target Aiden first. The cycle continued, Aiden defending, Dare attacking, yet unable to land a scratch. Dare questioned their lack of progress, and Aiden's sudden snicker worried both him and the Underlord. The Underlord suspected Balabul's interference, but the Bible protested innocence. Aiden reassured them he was sane, explaining that ordinary attacks wouldn't work, he needed the shield. Curious, the Underlord asked if he'd strike with it. Aiden smirked, revealing the shield housed a banshee's soul, capable of madness, and that repeated use alongside his sword was strengthening him. With a swift slash, Aiden finally grinned, showing he too was semi-masterclass. Dare, shocked, realized Aiden had been hiding his true power, and reluctantly admitted Aiden was stronger than him, contrary to what their earlier clash with Tion suggested. The fight shifts. Aiden is no longer just defending, he's taking the fight to the Death Knight, and for the first time, they have a chance to win. Dare stands stunned, realizing that Aiden is more powerful than he could have ever imagined. Aiden grins widely, realizing that he missed his target because he was too drunk on his own power. The Underlord questioned how every weapon Aiden wielded seemed so insane. Aiden replied that the best weapons were always a little crazy. The Underlord mused that perhaps the items merely matched Aiden's own madness. Ready to end the fight, Aiden activated the Ring of Swiftness. The Death Knight, sensing a shift, readied his strike. In a blur, Aiden leapt behind him, teasing that he was too slow to catch up, then attacked with speed that left Dare stunned. As Aiden pressed the advantage relentlessly, the Death Knight, desperate, swung toward Dare. Pain from the ring slowed Aiden, forcing him to struggle to reach his friend in time. Dare froze as the knight advanced. Suddenly, Tion rushed forward, determined to protect his friends despite knowing he was outmatched. Remembering Aiden's advice on precise strikes, Tion channeled all his strength and struck the Death Knight with a radiant aura. The knight, acknowledging his mission unfinished, finally fell. Other undead vanished with him, signaling the end of the calamity. Soldiers cheered as Tion stood behind the fallen foe. Dare approached, calling Tion a semi-master and promising to repay the debt. Tion accepted solemnly. Dare wanted to include Aiden in the celebration, but he had already vanished. Tion couldn't shake the feeling he hadn't truly defeated the knight. Meanwhile, Aiden, fully drained from pushing himself to the limit, knew he needed rest. The Underlord urged him to enjoy the victory, but Aiden could only focus on recovery, unable to celebrate. This victory was only a step toward Aiden's revenge. He'd also discovered Sylvetta's collaboration with dark mages, raising suspicion about his other companions. The Underlord reassured him that things were going as planned. Aiden's thoughts lingered on Nikita, who had once dealt with chaos, explaining why the summoning reversed and the Death Knight was defeated. Ro arrived, injured from fighting the undead, and Aiden told him to rest. The next day, while Aiden slept in the Imperial Palace guest room, he sensed an intruder, Nika. She revealed a soundproof barrier and confronted him, asking how he knew so much. Though she threatened him, Aiden calmly insisted their goals aligned. Skeptical, she challenged his knowledge as a noble. He explained his hatred of modern dark mages, especially those from chaos, citing that dark magic was originally meant to purify and fight underworld monsters. He offered a friendly alliance, surprising her, and promised information about a future event only he knew. Just as he began revealing it, Ro brought Tyan into the room, and Tyan, seeing Aiden near Nikita, misread the scene as something romantic. Tyan stormed off without a word, leaving Aiden shouting that it wasn't what it looked like. Later, Aiden confronted Tyan, whose face flushed at the memory. Tyan asked if Aiden had spent time with Nikita, and Aiden awkwardly explained it was only a conversation, though Tyan clearly didn't believe him. Earlier, Aiden had warned Nikita that a drought would hit Barkan territory in 3 months, but she dismissed it. He stressed the importance of warning Tyan too, and when she refused to believe him, he pushed her out, earning her icy warning that she'd find him if he lied. Back in the present, Aiden asked why Tyan had come, perhaps for another duel, but Tyan admitted his father was right, Aiden was worthy of wielding bows. Tyan bowed, expressing gratitude for Aiden showing him the path to save his friend and acknowledging that Aiden's earlier strike had weakened the Death Knight. Tyan declared he would make Aiden his rival after Dare and vowed to defeat him and reclaim Balabul, revealing he truly took after his father. Afterward, Aiden and Tyan agreed to treat each other as equals. A few days later, they left the Imperial City, nearing their territory. Aiden asked about Ro's wounds, and Ro tearfully expressed gratitude for the healing potion, prompting Aiden to remind him to take care of him in return. Grinning, Aiden remarked on the imperial family's generosity, giving them enough gold for several mansions, and mentioned gifts he brought for friends and Alice. Arriving at Maryland City, the crowd cheered loudly, irritating Aiden, who marveled at how fast rumors spread. Underlord noted that rumors travel faster than wind. Then Aiden's jaw dropped. A massive, golden, and revealing statue of himself stood in the plaza, commissioned by his father after hearing he defeated a troll. Ro admired it, while Underlord gagged. At Ray's mansion, Aiden sent Ro to hand out gifts and went to confront his father about the statue. The servant's downcast expressions confused him, and he prepared to scold his father, but his father's grim expression revealed worse news. Joseph and Alice had been taken by the sacred flame. They claimed to be fugitives, and though his father tried to intervene, Joseph volunteered to go. Aiden learned they would be taken to the sacred flame headquarters. His father warned that defying the three orders could ruin their family, leaving Aiden speechless. With a fake smile, Aiden says he just wants to say goodbye. His father, though troubled, wishes him a safe journey. Once outside, Underlord notes Aiden was only pretending. Aiden admits that telling the truth would have made his father stop him. He's furious. The order took his people without permission and vows to destroy them if they touch anyone. In the Western continent, three major holy orders, the churches of the gods of slaughter, law, and the sacred flame, represent divine authority. Saints, humans chosen by the gods, act as intermediaries, revealing their will. Ro reflects on why the Order of the Sacred Flame took Alice and Joseph. The church hasn't produced a saint in over a decade, losing a fifth of its former power. Arriving at their destination, Ro vomits in nostalgia over his mercenary days. He thanks Foval, who brushes it off, enjoying favors for regular customers. Merchants like Aiden know Foval's guild well, which is why he deals exclusively with them. Seeing Rose unwell, Aiden urges him to rest. He observes the Temple of the Sacred Flame, still luxurious but unnervingly calm. Guards turn away people seeking healing, and the gates remain closed despite the pilgrimage season. Aiden quickly connects this seclusion to Joseph and Alice being taken. Foval, suspicious, asks how he'll get inside. Aiden gives a vague answer, making Foval visibly nervous, knowing trouble is sure to follow. Aiden calmly approaches a monk guarding the entrance, claiming urgent business. The monk apologizes, explaining that no outsider, even a lord, may enter. Aiden insists, his voice firm, but the monk refuses. Losing patience, Aiden strikes, sending the monk sprawling. Another monk angrily cries out, but Aiden turns on him as well, attacking the so-called protectors. Foval observes, unsurprised by his lord's scoundrel elegance. Before proceeding, Aiden warns Underlord of the place's divine energy. As the doors open, monks initially think it's the start of their shift, then panic at his intrusion. Underlord asks if Aiden knows Joseph's location. He admits he doesn't, replying vaguely that he has his own way. Monks prepare to kill him for breaching the sacred order. Underlord muses whether Aiden intends to fight them all. Aiden clarifies. He only plans to activate his Ring of Swiftness to reach the Bell of Lamentation and cause chaos. The bell allows those in dire straits to speak with the order's leader, but it has been moved to a nearly unreachable spot due to abuse. Underlord notes it would have been simpler to remove the bell, but law protects it. As Aiden approaches, orders are given to stop him. Realizing he must use the ring again despite side effects, he finally spots the bell and steels himself with renewed determination. Aiden is moments from ringing the bell when someone catches up and strikes from behind. He narrowly evades, surprised anyone could match his Ring of Swiftness. The attacker, a massive monk claiming superiority over others, refuses to let him reach the bell. Underlord wonders if the monk is even human. Aiden draws his sword, politely asking Vali to step aside, but Vali laughs, excited to face a strong opponent. The first clash shows Vali's monstrous strength, surpassing even Cetus. Aiden has never faced anyone like him, while Vali enjoys the challenge. Underlord notes that the stronger they are, the crazier they seem. Aiden agrees, joking that it's unlucky they always meet lunatics. Knowing he can't match Vali, Aiden readies his shield, only to see it shattered and himself thrown against a wall, bloodied. Vali steps forward, declaring he will kill Aiden for his sins, but Aiden still moves. Vali realizes Aiden had a mana-infused sword and smoke, planning a counter, though the strike misses. Taunting him as a useless knight, Vali is then unsettled by Aiden's sarcastic grin, shocked to see him face death with such boldness. Vali's eyes widen as he realizes Aiden's sword wasn't aimed at him. He hears a bell instead. Aiden, exhausted from the fight and the Ring of Swiftness, weakly asks if he can now meet the leader, then loses consciousness. Monks later revive him with a powerful healing testament, restoring his strength. Underlord suffers greatly from the divine energy, enduring painful torment which Aiden smugly finds amusing. Vali escorts Hakal, the vice leader of the Sacred Flame Order. Auden greets him, noting Hakal appears kinder than expected. From his knowledge of the future, Auden knows Hakal will eventually lead the order to ruin, but for now, he seems normal. Auden apologizes for intruding. Hakal reassures him that, as a guest, he is welcome. Vali also appears, prompting caution, but Aiden greets him and declines a replacement shield, explaining his own has regenerative abilities, though it will take 4 days to fully recover due to damage from med attacks. Aiden then asks to meet the leader to address Joseph and Alice. Hikley apologizes, saying the leader is unavailable, but offers to meet the highest present authority instead. Aiden senses something is wrong, knowing the bell should allow him to meet the leader directly, and hopes to meet Curdle, the current sensible leader of the order. Although Curdle's methods were confusing, Aiden recognized he had saved his life in a past life without asking for anything in return. If Aiden were in his place, he would have expected repayment, earning him the nickname Talos from Underlord, the monster of the underworld. Aiden disliked the remark but promised to bathe in holy potion, signaling that Underlord would endure what came next. Huckle then told him he would meet someone of higher rank than Hakal, though still below the leader. Curious but determined to rescue Joseph and Alice, Aiden followed. Heel added that the person was remarkably bright, raising Aiden's anticipation. Upon entering, Aiden's expression froze. Joseph and Alice sat at a lavish table, enjoying a luxury meal. Huckle and Valley bowed to Alice, who was revered as the saintest of the sacred flame. Panic set in as Aiden confronted Joseph, demanding answers. Calmly, Joseph revealed he had been a member of the Seven-Star Council, mastering the sacred flame. The council comprised the continent's greatest apothecaries, explaining why Joseph was unmatched. Underlord questioned why these apothecaries seemed only slightly better than ordinary doctors, but in truth, the Sacred Flame Order controlled the best apothecaries, wielding immense influence over leaders. Aiden still wondered why Joseph, a top figure, lived in a slum. Joseph explained that every 40 years, a saint rises to lead for 4 decades, and new candidates are chosen by a divine mark. Yet, in the past decade, these candidates born to young adults had been systematically assassinated. Alice was one of these candidates, so Joseph fled to protect her, only returning after learning of another catastrophic threat. Aiden's eyes widened, struggling to grasp what could be more catastrophic than the deaths of the saint candidates. Dread settled in, for he knew this period should be one of peace for the Sacred Flame Order. Days earlier, a group from the Order had arrived to retrieve Joseph and Alice but were blocked, as Aiden refused to hand them over. The leading monk, furious, insisted that family status didn't grant them authority over the Order's affairs and demanded their surrender. After a tense exchange, Joseph requested a private conversation. Joseph questioned how the monk had discovered their location and why he hadn't acted sooner. The monk admitted he had assumed they were dead. Only after the Cerberus Guild's destruction did he uncover their whereabouts. Ordered to bring them back, he pressed the point, but Joseph argued that sending Alice away was too risky with the Saint candidate's murders unresolved. The monk insisted, revealing that the Order's leader had fallen gravely ill despite the monk's efforts. Joseph confirmed the Order now faced a crisis. The plan: awaken Alice as the new saint in 4 days to heal the leader and restore the Order. Joseph apologized for withholding details. Aiden's anger wasn't directed at him but at the news. Curdle, his past life savior, was seriously ill. Knowing this was to happen 3 years from now in his previous life, Aiden worried his actions might have disrupted the timeline. After a pause, he resolved to stay until he discovered the cause. Underlord dreaded remaining in the holy place, but Aiden silenced him, insisting that uncovering the problem quickly was the only way to leave sooner. Valley led Aiden to meet the leader, giving him only 5 minutes. The moment he entered, a foul odor hit him, and the sight of Curdle in such a weakened state stirred guilt. He had never repaid Curdle for saving his life in his past life. As he struggled with his emotions, Aiden sensed a strange, ominous energy emanating from Curdle. Underlord noted that Aiden should recognize it from his past life, but Aiden couldn't. Underlord explained dryly that it was a subtle, layered curse, invisible to ordinary humans, slowly destroying Curdle from within. Aiden deduced a mole in the Order, likely a dark mage, was responsible, realizing that even in his previous life, Curdle's decline was likely due to this curse. Determined to help, Aiden focused on breaking it. Underlord clarified that no normal caster could remove the curse. Only a dark mage who understood its structure, or potentially Alice with her divine power, could heal him. This worried Aiden, as anyone aware of her potential might target her. He resolved to warn Joseph to better protect Alice. Suddenly, a shriek pierced the air. Alice's. He raced to her room, finding Joseph and others already there with no sign of an attack. A panicked maid explained that Alice screamed after a candle was turned off. Aiden recalled that Alice always slept with lights on in the palace and suspected PTSD from her captivity. He asked Joseph for a moment alone with her. Joseph allowed Aiden the time alone with Alice. She trembled, repeating that she didn't want to die. Gently raising his hand, Aiden reassured her that with his protection, not even the Underlord could harm her. In relief, Alice hugged him, sobbing, and gradually calmed. When Aiden asked how she felt, she admitted doubt about becoming a saint. Saints in stories were brave and powerful, but she longed only to return home and play with Cassie and Choco. Aiden tapped her head, reminding her she was still a child and didn't have to understand sainthood fully yet. Curious, Alice asked if he knew any saints. Aiden smiled but stopped, haunted by painful memories of betrayal. Pressed for details, he gently patted her head, assuring her that saints are human and could show emotions, and that she was free to go home if she wished. Alice inquired about his past saint friend. He confirmed they were no longer friends, then spun a story to satisfy her curiosity, leaving himself mentally drained. Joseph soon returned with Hackle, asking after Alice. Aiden reassured him and let him meet her. Turning to Hackle, Aiden asked why he lingered. Hackle extended his hand in thanks, which Aiden accepted politely. Underlord's eyes then widened. Dark energy radiated from Hackle. He warned Aiden that Hackle was a dark mage. Hackle, frustrated that Alice survived, cursed his failure and regretted not killing her earlier. His subordinate updated him that the special guests would arrive soon, and Hackle planned to escort them to Huckle. Park Heck's plan was to have the intruder assassinate Alice during the awakening ceremony, aiming to seize control of the order. Aiden, already suspecting a dark mole, realizes it's Hackle. The Underlord notes he sensed it the moment Aiden touched Hackle's hand. Dark mages radiate demonic energy. Aiden curses under his breath, wary that more dark mages may lurk in Hell's Circle. He also wonders why Heckle hastened Curdle's decline compared to his past life and what timeline changes, besides saving Alice, caused it. First, he must learn who Hackle has invited. Outside the order, at the village's edge, a mysterious figure meets a monk. The monk urges him inside, but the newcomer scorns the monk's rush preparations for Alice. Aiden follows silently, noting the voice seems familiar. The monk mentions the visitor's commander will benefit from Hackle's future leadership. Angered, the figure seizes the monk, threatening him, but eventually releases him. Aiden's heart races as he finally sees the figure, Benej Haima, the Red Knight. Memories from his past life click. Benej had served Sylvita, the one who vowed to purge dark mages. Aiden realizes Sylvita's corruption runs far deeper than he imagined, and the chaos in this timeline stems from Sylvita's schemes. The Underlord asks what Sylvita gains from Hackle's rise. Aiden deduces it's not just family prestige, solidifying Sylvita's position is key. With Hegel in power, Sylvita could easily ascend as head of his family. More unsettling is Dare's role. Aiden had saved him this timeline, a change Sylvita evidently orchestrated. Anger surged within Aiden and how low Sylvita could go, but his thoughts were cut short when he sensed movement behind him. Bajig, realizing Aiden had overheard, turned with deadly intent. Aiden leapt into the air to dodge, noting Bajig's impulsive, explosive swordsmanship. The monk rushed toward him, making Aiden cautious about acting outside the order building, but Bajig, blaming the monk, sent him fleeing. Bajig then focused on Aiden, deducing he wasn't ordinary from his sword defense. Aiden gave vague answers, prompting Bajig to grin, eager for a fight. Realizing Benej was far superior, Aiden tried to escape, but Bajig's skill blocked any chance. Their swords clashed intensely, even astonishing the Underlord who found Benej crazier than Talos or Aiden. Aiden, weaker and unable to use his shield, quickly plotted a way out. Bajig recognized Aiden's sword style resembled his commander's. Aiden addressed him by full name, catching Benej off guard. Laughing, Benej assumed Aiden was allied with Dare. Aiden silently apologized to Dare and played along, warning both Benej and his master would face consequences for involving dark mages. Enraged, Benej attacked again, but Aiden dodged, realizing his words only fueled Benej's violent, impulsive nature, making him more unhinged without even going all out. Benej's impulsive madness was in full display. With a maniacal grin, he challenged Aiden, convinced he couldn't be beaten. Suddenly, a nosebleed startled him, giving Aiden the perfect moment to strike with his sword aura. Benej blocked, but began losing balance. Aiden smirked, having used his main skill, Resonance, a subtle technique that disrupts an opponent's internal mana flow over time, eventually eroding their core. Yet Benej remained standing, showing his incredible strength. Benej demanded Aiden fight seriously, enraged by his taunts and the use of his commander's name. Provoked further, Aiden threw a smoke bomb at him. Benej blocked but froze as the smoke exploded, giving Aiden cover to vanish. Underlord grumbled about running, but Aiden explained he couldn't fight a knight without his shield, so he planned to delay Benej while pursuing the real target, the fleeing dark mage. Aiden caught up, striking the mage down with a surge of sword aura. The next day, Hackle was found in the underground cave beneath the order, shaking with rage. The priest meant to deliver a knight from Sylvita had vanished, and the knight himself never arrived. Hackle began to suspect betrayal. Despite his plan's failure, Hackle resolves to stop Alice's awakening at any cost. A wicked idea strikes him. He will use Aiden as a scapegoat. On the day of the ceremony, priests line the entrance of the church of the Holy Fire. Joseph clings to Alice, overwhelmed with joy and tears, but she asks him to stop, feeling awkward. Aiden reminds her that her strength should make God repay her for all she endured. Joseph is stunned, while Auden suggests this power might help her survive without sacrifice. Shifting focus, they proceed. A priest guides Alice toward the altar, insisting she go alone. Joseph is comforted, though he struggles to let her go. Hackle quietly approaches Aiden, offering a rare, high-grade pill under the guise of gratitude. Hesitant at first, Aiden swallows it, only for his expression to darken. He has been cursed to kill Alice during her awakening. Hackle watches with satisfaction. Alice steps toward the divine flames, recalling Aiden's words, God should fear her, not the other way around. At the same time, Aiden moves toward the main hall under the pill's influence. Hackle stands confident, awaiting the cursed act that will cement his rise. But before the plan unfolds, warrior monks suddenly arrive in full battle gear. Everyone froze. Volley, in armor, commanded calm, raising tension during the sacred ceremony. Hackle reminded him that armor was forbidden today, but Volley insisted it was urgent, claiming a heretic aligned with darkness was among them. The priests murmured in disbelief. Hackle shouted it was nonsense. Accusing a fellow priest of dark magic was serious. Before he could argue, a priest stepped forward, confessing he summoned them. Everyone was stunned. The archpriest appeared fully healed, something thought impossible. Hackle, shaken after years of cursing him, wondered if someone equally powerful had healed him or if a traitor intervened. Curl then revealed Huckle was a dark mage, causing a gasp. Hackle, craving power, trembled but refused defeat, accusing Aiden instead, claiming he had plotted to kill the saint and urging the others to stop him. At that moment, Argy arrived. Hackle demanded what he had done to the saint. Calmly, Argy explained she was inside, undergoing awakening. Hackle realized the curse had failed. The night before the Crimson Knight battle, Argy had spoken to Nikita, sensing her presence. She had taken owl form, curious about his intentions. He suspected Chaos was behind the church's troubles, a shared enemy, and planned to face the Dark Mages himself, asking her to lend a special artifact. The owl couldn't grasp why it was needed just to break a curse. She assumed he aimed to fight Chaos. In truth, it was for Curl, frozen in paralysis with a clear mind. He believed Curl already knew Hackle's true loyalties, and once awake, exposing the traitors would be easy. The owl found his reasoning sound and proposed an alternative. She summoned a magic ring of her own making, explaining it could lift the curse if it reached the high priest. She warned much of the church had already fallen under Chaos and they might target Argy. Aiden reassured her he already carried the curse, so others couldn't affect in the same way. The Underlord, sensing the reference, initially refused but relented when threatened with a holy potion. Aiden suspected Hackle had been exposed, though many still doubted he could be a dark mage. Curl urged surrender, but Hackle refused, bitter that the church had never chosen him. His lifelong dream of sainthood destroyed, he declared life meaningless. Dark magic erupted around him as he summoned his comrades. Panic spread, some priests resisted, others succumbed, attacking one another. Bally prepared to intervene, but the archpriest held him back, recognizing Hackle's fall and cunning. Hackle took cruel pleasure in the chaos, cursing anyone opposing him to instant death. Curl seethed but was powerless. Argy estimated 15 dark mages in the room, spotting their unique energy. He struck with speed, eliminating 2 instantly. Hackle warned the rest would die, but Argy didn't flinch. This wasn't about holiness, but his vendetta against chaos. Hackle realized this fight was personal. His earlier fighters had failed, and the Underlord couldn't confirm whether Argy intended to kill everyone. That doubt shattered the curse's hold. Knowing fewer dark mages weakened the spell, Argy launched smoke bombs into the chaos. Hackle had no clue what was coming, and under cover, Argy struck down more enemies. Hackle watched his forces dwindle, desperate after a decade of planning. Tapping deeper into dark energy, he drained a fleeing mage, offering the Underworld's Baron half the victim's life and all souls taken. Argy silently hoped it wouldn't succeed. Dark mana began converging into a single point. The priests, confused, slowly regained awareness, realizing the Underlord had lifted. The real fight was only starting. A portal opened overhead, pulsing with strange energy, chilling even Vali. Suddenly, a blinding beam shot from it, smashing the ground and sending fragments flying. Screams erupted, but Vali and the archpriest remained unharmed as Aiden blocked the debris with his sword's aura. He urged them to flee to safety. As dust settled, a silhouette emerged, a creature, Talos, breathing in deeply, savoring the world he hadn't felt in ages. To Talos, everything looked soft, delicate, and strangely beautiful. Fragile beings surviving in such a place fascinated him. Aiden, meanwhile, was furious. Too much had already gone wrong. The Underlord was stunned as Talos demanded to know who summoned him. Hackle stepped forward, claiming mastery and ordering him to kill the priests, but blood spurted from his body. Talos had expected a rich, satisfying soul, but this one disappointed him. Argy recognized Talos as the monster responsible for the world's past destruction, clearly high-ranking and deadly. Skilled swordmasters would struggle against him. Suddenly, every priest around him fell unconscious. Talos had cast illusion fog, trapping them in their worst nightmares while draining life. Protected by the Underlord, Argy remained unaffected and learned that Talos, known as Maisto, had once tried to deceive the Underlord but failed, leaving his soul enslaved. A notion Argy found amusing. Without noticing, Maisto appeared directly in front of him, curious about the taste of his soul. The Underlord warned him not to fear yet. Talos hadn't reached full power due to an improper summoning and was only using half his strength. Hearing this, Aiden felt slightly reassured, but Maisto declared that Aiden would be the first to die. Instead of fearing Talos, Aiden provokes him, even daring to call him by name. He reminds Talos how everyone knows Maisto now, thanks to the Underlord dragging him around like a pet, and offers to help trick him. Talos, furious, swings an attack, but Aiden leaps out of the way. Talos threatens to make Aiden feel the soul-tearing agony he once endured. Aiden suspects the Underlord is hiding something. Hesitant, the Underlord admits he once used Talos in experiments driven by curiosity. Aiden briefly forgets the Underlord's true nature, then realizes just how insane he is. The Underlord counters that Talos is even crazier. Their argument halts. Too many people are nearby. They need to lure Talos away, but he refuses and charges, unleashing energy cuts that tear through the building. Even half of Maisto's power stuns Aiden. He blocks the next strike with his sword but is slammed into a wall, leaving a crack. Maisto is impressed. Aiden isn't ordinary. While thinking of strategy, Aiden notes the Banshee shield is still regenerating. His only option now is risky. Thanks to a high-class pill from Heal, his abilities have leveled up. Magical energy swirls around Bible. Talos senses a strange aura, unaware Balabal's gluttony powers have grown. Aiden summons the souls he previously absorbed with Wraith enslavement, calling forth a ghostly troll at his side. Even skilled dark magicians would struggle with this, and Maisto is shaken. Smirking, Aiden taunts it as the Underlord's little experiment. Talos snaps, declaring he will drag Aiden straight into the depths of hell. Meanwhile, Alice drifts toward a glow from the fire, finding the area unexpectedly beautiful. Suddenly, the master of the sacred flame, the main lord of the Holy Trinity, appears. Curious, he remarks that it's been ages since he last saw a human. He isn't interested in a long chat, telling her to take his power and leave so he can rest. Alice, however, refuses to back down. She boldly complains about her suffering, demanding compensation, shocking the Lord. Instead of anger, he smirks, intrigued by her audacity. He promises to repay her, not just for this life but the one before, referring to Aiden's intervention that saved her life and altered her destiny. He seems genuinely interested in how events will unfold. Back on the battlefield, the troll channels fire, hurling attacks at Maisto. He dodges, flinching, uneasy with the flames, but it's minor compared to previous threats. Aiden quietly approaches from behind, swinging decisively to slice off one of Maisto's wings and an arm. Maisto screams and crashes to the ground. Landing nearby, Aiden taunts that ignoring him was a mistake. Maisto swears vengeance, but Aiden sarcastically suggests asking the Underlord for replacements, even angel wings. The troll then unleashes a torrent of fire, engulfing Maisto, while Aiden warns the Underlord he might need a new test subject. The Demon Lord simply tells him to stop joking. Maisto isn't that easy to kill. As the flames die down, Aiden stares in disbelief. Maisto remains standing, already healing, unusual even for high-ranking Talos. His true strength isn't sheer power but endurance. Fire, his supposed fear, no longer harms him. Aiden struggles to understand, but Maisto's fear stems from trauma. Once trapped in hellfire by the Demon Lord, he endured its searing heat until he built resistance, though the scars remained. Fully regenerated, Maisto grins, recognizing Aiden's trick failed and seeing the gap between them. Aiden knows victory is unlikely but charges anyway, colliding with Maisto in a massive explosion. As dust clears, Maisto approaches the nearly unconscious Aiden, unimpressed. Aiden's fatigue makes him falter, his body heavy, sleep creeping in, yet he clings to unfinished business and the desire to surpass his past life. Maisto raises his arm for the final strike. Aiden lies still, resigned. The Underlord, tired of Aiden's theatrics, scolds him for arrogance but offers a shocking gift, access to true power. A surge of magical energy erupts from Aiden. Maisto freezes, recognizing the unmistakable aura Underlord's. Reinvigorated, Aiden stands, eyes glowing with authority. Maisto trembles and, overwhelmed, kneels, acknowledging it an honor to meet the Underlord. Aiden's aura radiates absolute power, compelling all Talos to obey. The very power that once kept the Demon Lord in check is now why Maisto kneels before Aiden, overwhelmed by the strength he hadn't anticipated. Underlord watches with satisfaction, recalling how the world once trembled at his presence, though he quickly notes that his former power is gone. Aiden considers remarking that no one invited Underlord into his body but decides to stay silent, instead praising him, lifting Underlord's spirits. Maisto glances nervously at Aiden, realizing he had forgotten the true monster before him. Aiden confirms he is the Underlord and intends to cool his head, filling Maisto with dread. Meanwhile, Alice completes her initiation ceremony and rushes out, hoping to see Aiden. She freezes at the sight. Aiden stands calm while Meto trembles exhausted on the ground. Confused, she asks about the outcome, and he simply inquires about her awakening. Alice explains the god offered nothing, and her attention drifts to Meto, whom Aiden dismisses as just a pet, leaving her puzzled but accepting it. Underlord watches, horrified at Aiden's casual reference. Alice gently places her hand on Maisto's head, infusing holy power that ignites him in pain. He begs for forgiveness, pleading to end the trial. Aiden recognizes the holy energy. Alice has truly awakened, but Underlord quickly draws his focus back to the present. Realizing the moment demands action, Aiden raises the Bible and tells Alice to close her eyes. She obeys, and he thrusts the sword forward, commanding it to absorb Maisto. Panicked, Maisto barely registers Balza's presence before his body vanishes into the blade. Aiden exhales, relieved, but collapses immediately, prompting Alice to rush to his side. Days later, the Church of the Sacred Flame launches a sweeping purge against heretics. Priests awoken from dream-induced slumber are told Aiden helped Alice defeat a dark mage, and they celebrate her, singing her praises. Watching, Aiden feels his own weakness. Those who betrayed him long ago could have destroyed Maisto effortlessly. He is nowhere near that level yet. His reflection is interrupted as High Priest Curdle, restored by Alice's power, approaches to express gratitude. Because Aiden exposed the heretics, the church acted swiftly. Underlord scoffs at Aiden's humility, but Curdle formally thanks him, crediting him for the saint's return and the church's survival. Aiden humbly calls it repaying a debt, recalling a past life lesson that helping requires no reason. Curdle is pleased and inspired by his conviction. Then Curdle addresses Alice. She is the church's future, deserving the teaching she missed. Given past failures and recent crises, keeping her there isn't enough. They decide to establish a new church in Rem's territory, allowing Alice to continue her training under her family's protection. The new church is also a win for the Rem family, boosting their status, and such institutions are usually built only in powerful cities. Aiden sees it as a fortunate outcome. His efforts to protect people have yielded something truly good. Far away in the forest, a knight grows frustrated, knowing the Red Knight's sentimental and clumsy nature caused problems, but failure isn't an option. He orders everyone to stay alert to ensure Lord Silva becomes the next Archduke. Meanwhile, Ro and Aiden ride a carriage. Ro appears worn out, prompting Aiden to ask why he seems worse off. Ro assures him it isn't that bad, though Aiden recalls that Ro, sent to quietly monitor the Chaos members, ended up cursed with rapid aging, forcing Aiden to rely on Alice's help, which still irritates him. Determined, he mutters about putting Ro through training once they return. Ro then asks about the church treasures. Aiden casually produces a tiny spatial pouch containing everything, including magic silk. Ro is stunned. Such a rare artifact protects items from damage, showing the church's immense power. Aiden then reveals a strange find, a large egg glowing with dark magical energy. Ro frowns, guessing it looks like an ostrich egg, but acknowledges the mana is impossible for one. Neither can determine its origin. Aiden explains the egg came from a strange, untouched room along with an ancient book, which he took out of curiosity. Ro suspects it might hold clues, but Aiden can't read it. Ro then asks if Aiden really just found them or stole them. Slightly guilty, Aiden admits he stumbled upon the dusty room with a strange aura and couldn't resist. Ro loses his temper, insisting the church will demand their return regardless of Aiden's savior status. Aiden jokes about the egg hatching into a golden egg-laying duck. Later, they trudge through snow towards Sadis Hamorte. Ro asks why they aren't heading home, reminding Aiden of promised training. Aiden grins, hinting he craves pain. Ro sighs, wondering why they'd traveled so far. The journey isn't just for the Sadis, it's to reach the Forest of Death, where special ants crucial for top-quality potions live. Approaching the estate, 2 guards block entry, stating the Lord is absent and outsiders aren't allowed. Ro loudly introduces Aiden as the Duke of Rem's eldest son, but the guards remain unmoved. Aiden watches in surprise as Underlord notes the locals see him as a thief who humiliated the Lord's son at a royal banquet, a memory Aiden had completely forgotten. With a grim expression, Aiden grips his sword, determined to get in somehow. Ro, uneasy, asks what he's planning, but Aiden draws the blade before answering. The guards immediately recognize it as Bible, a weapon of great significance, and react with alarm. Still, they insist their lord isn't home and demand he leave, threatening force if he doesn't comply. Ro is outraged, but Aiden remains silent, stepping back deliberately. He draws a deep, forceful breath, startling the guards, but instead of attacking, he shouts Tien's name provocatively. A furious curse echoes from inside. Aiden smiles, the message has landed. Moments later, Tien storms out, furious, and Aiden greets him calmly. Tien demands an explanation, but Aiden gestures at the guards who fumble their excuses. He then asks to talk inside, and Tien agrees. In the guest room, Aiden notes the luxurious furnishings and quietly admires them. He inquires about Margarov Sedis, and Tien explains his father has gone to the slaughter tower due to troubling reports of a high troll appearing near their lands. The news burdens Aiden, stirring memories of the slaughter tower. In his past life, he had been lost in endless conflict, blind to the real causes of chaos. Now, he understands the signs and knows he must grow stronger to prevent disaster. Tien, watching him closely, asks his true reason for coming. Aiden reveals he needs to enter the Forest of Death. Tien reacts with disbelief, warning of its poisons, undead, monstrous creatures, and lethal plants. Yet Aiden sees that danger as precisely why he must go. He needs a rare poisonous plant that grows only there. Tien mutters that Aiden has always been reckless, but this surpasses it, and the timing couldn't be worse. Aiden learns the forest isn't just deadly, it's inhabited. Lawless or impoverished people survive there in a hidden village, cultivating crops and clearing land. Tien, familiar with the area, notes the situation has worsened, bandits have appeared, and villagers are disappearing. He mentions a night order is planned to handle the threat. Though it's a small village in a cursed forest, Tien won't ignore their plight. He tells Aiden he has 2 options: wait until the bandit problem is resolved, or abandon his plan entirely. Tien notices a subtle change in Aiden, realizing he might not be as heartless as he seems and perhaps does care about others. Aiden, thinking about the ant and the villagers, worries that bandits might reach them first and steal the elixir. Resolving to protect them, he decides to help fight the bandits. Curse notices the shift in Aiden's tone, revealing his true intentions. Calm but serious, Aiden tells Tien he's in. Later, as they warm up near the fortress gates, a guard challenges Tien for bringing Aiden along, citing past embarrassments. Tien snaps back, emphasizing the people's safety over pride and scolding the guard for disrespecting someone risking his life. Tien reinforces that he and his father recognize Aiden's worth even if others judge him. He thanks Aiden again, but warns the mission won't be easy. Aiden, relaxed, says he doesn't mind and finds helping people rewarding. Glancing at the team, he questions if their small group is enough for a forest full of bandits. Tien agrees and explains he hired a mercenary to even the odds. Right on cue, a laughing figure approaches. It's Luna. Tien notices her, while Aiden is thrown off, staring in confusion as he tries to place her. Kirst teases him, and Aiden admits he doesn't remember, though he has a sense of her origin. Luna reveals she's a servant of the god of carnage, shocking Ro, who assumes she's a cult priestess. Aiden notes quietly that hiring a mercenary from such a cult is bold. Aine mentions that priests from the cult are supposed to be dangerous, but Luna seems calm and friendly. She gushes that she's heard of Aiden, the Duke of Ram's son, and Aiden greets her warmly, recalling past encounters with cult members. Luna excitedly suggests they punish evil together, hinting at fate. Aiden considers the cult's combat skills and realizes Luna's presence gives them an advantage against the bandits. Tie-in signals, and the team moves toward the Forest of Death. Inside, they follow a cleared path beneath thick trees. The forest seems ordinary at first, but Aiden suddenly senses that something isn't right. A heavy, oppressive presence hung in the air. Aiden asked the Underlord if he felt it. Kurse confirmed HQ sensed it too dark, ominous energy leaking from the underworld itself. The forest felt cursed, poisonous, yet people lived here. Aiden wondered if that annoying rabbit had sent him on purpose, joking or not, and vowed to get back at it. Turning to Tyen, he worried about bringing Luna, since his father hated mercenaries, especially from strange cults. Tyen replied seriously that people's suffering came first. Mercenaries often handle bandits better than knights anyway. Surprised, Aiden realized Tyen was sharper than his dad. Their banter continued, each teasing the other, until Tien stopped abruptly, warning them the first village was near. Stepping out of the trees, they saw ruins, burned, lifeless remnants of the 5 slash-and-burn villages in the Forest of Death. The first was charred, no survivors. Each village they reached was the same ash and silence. By the fourth, hope felt lost, and Tien stood among the wreckage, shaken. Tyen muttered that this was already the 4th village they'd checked, each one as destroyed as the last, not a single survivor. They dug through the rubble, searching. Aiden wondered how something so brutal could happen to simple farming villages. Guards should have been present. Suddenly, a guard shouted, "Survivors." They rushed to a pile of debris and found 2 frightened children hiding. The guard guessed they survived by taking cover under the rubble. Tyen knelt, offering his hand with a gentle smile, introducing them as Cetus Knights here to protect them. The children tearfully clung to hope, the girl to Tyen, the boy insisting their parents were still alive, taken by the attackers. Tien's expression darkened, his voice cold as he demanded to know the bandits' audacity. Soon, more knights entered the forest. Aiden questioned chasing a mere lead, but he knew the last village might hold answers. Movement in the woods caught his attention. Tien cursed quietly. It was time for payback. Men emerged from the trees, surrounding them. Tien ordered everyone to stay put. Aiden and Luna exchanged confused glances. Tien stepped forward. These weren't enemies, and greeted one of the men, remarking it had been a long time. The startled man told his people to lower their weapons, squinting at Tyen as if he barely recognized him, then asked if they'd come to help. He introduced himself as Marcus, leader of the 5th slash-and-burn village. Aiden quietly asked Tyen if they knew each other. Tyen nodded. Marcus had served in their knightly order 10 years ago but retired after a severe injury. Smiling faintly, Tyen teased him for the formal greeting. Marcus apologized, explaining the villages had been under constant attack and barely recognized how much Tien had changed. Tien reassured him, glad Marcus was alive, but Marcus's gaze fell as he hesitantly asked about the other villages. Tien quietly confirmed they were all gone. Marcus sighed and suggested heading to his village first. Upon arrival, chaos reigned. A man panicked beside a wounded person as the wound glowed with dark energy. Aiden quickly offered a holy potion, explaining normal ones wouldn't work. The man, shocked, stared at the glowing vial, asking if Aiden was really giving something so valuable. Aiden raised his voice so everyone could hear, explaining that wounds glowing with dark energy were touched by demons and only holy potions could heal them. He urged those injured to come forward and began handing out the potions, grateful for his subspace stores. Underlord scoffed, accusing Aiden of caring more about money than people. Aiden snapped back, hoping Tien would avenge all the blood spilled. A man then asked if the potion worked on a child. Aiden nodded but froze mid-sentence. Closer inspection revealed the child was Ant in disguise. Meanwhile, near Marcus's village, dark mages moved through the forest. One complained about being cast out, another warned not to touch the one-armed man who was needed. The magician among them didn't answer directly but ordered all food, clothes, and money collected, insisting they only needed the people. He called the bandits fools and commanded them to take the prisoners to a prearranged location, cursing silently as the magician walked on cold and quiet, knowing the bandits would be next. In a dimly lit room, the wounded Ant slowly opened his eyes. Aiden noticed Ant stirring, confused and terrified, convinced he was in danger and that Aiden would eat him. Frantic, Ant claimed he was poisonous and tasteless. Aiden's calm, cheerful demeanor slowly eased his fear, teasing him by calling him an elixir and assuring he wouldn't eat him. He handed Ant a small pouch of powder, and the enticing aroma made Ant hesitant but curious. After a taste, his eyes lit up, delighted by the flavor. Observing this, Aiden quietly admitted that Ant truly enjoyed the lich's remains, while Kirsch looked satisfied his advice had been followed. Aiden then asked how Ant had ended up wounded and alone. Shock hit him, realizing Ant had been found unconscious with no one nearby. Ant couldn't understand what happened. Aiden carefully asked if he knew anything about the forest, implying he could help if the truth was shared. Ant remained silent, recalling his parents' warning not to trust humans. Suddenly, alarms rang, village bells and shouts signaled the bandits' return. Aiden cursed under his breath, turning to Ant and explaining that silence would no longer help. For now, he told Ant to stay hidden. Fear gripped the little creature, but hope flickered in his teary eyes. Maybe this human was different, maybe he could save the forest. Meanwhile, the village erupted in chaos. Bandits attacked, leaving destruction behind, while knights formed defensive ranks under their commander's orders. Observing the strengthened enemy forces, the dark mage smirked and raised his hands, summoning corpses from the ground. The knights recoiled in horror at the unnatural sight. Then Lunia appeared, her unnerving smile hinting at madness. Ignoring the knight's warnings, Tien reminded them that no one was better suited than Luna, priestess of divine slaughter. She launched into the air, her glowing mace creating a shockwave that devastated the battlefield. The dark mage, stunned, questioned what she was. Calling upon her god, she struck with relentless force, crushing both bandits and undead. In desperation, the mage sent a dark wave toward her, but she vanished before it reached her, leaving him unable to react. Next, she hovered above him, wild grin intact, her mace crashing down, leaving the ground red. After the battle, soldiers rested. One knight told Tien the remaining bandits were surrounded, but the captives revealed nothing. They had only taken valuables as ordered by the dark mage. With the mage dead, any lead on the villagers was lost. Frustrated, Tien asked Aiden where he had been. Aiden, serious, insisted there was still a way, though time was short. Earlier, he had asked Ant if all his kind were captured. Ant sadly confirmed, but explained he had escaped and seen many imprisoned, both ants and humans. Aiden pieced together that captives were likely for a major ritual, maybe to become undead, and vowed to stop it. Rage edged his voice as he questioned anyone daring to touch his elixir. Tien pressed for the enemy's plan, and Aiden mentioned one escapee had revealed a hidden shelter. Tien insisted they take charge, but Aiden refused to let them face the danger alone, placing a hand on Tien's shoulder. Tears welled in Tien's eyes, admitting he misjudged him. Watching from afar, Aiden wondered if only Ant spoke the truth. Meanwhile, deep in a volcanic crater forest, a man approached the dark mage, asking progress. The mage revealed the main circuit was complete, only the sacrifice's essence needed melting. Wondering about the 5th village squad, the mage smiled slyly at their late arrival, seeing perfect timing. With the return of the 5th village squad, the dark mage believed his creation would be complete, bringing his master closer to their goal. The warrior agreed, silently praying to Lord Sylvetta for patience. Meanwhile, Aiden pondered whether the dark magicians had seized the ant village in the volcano, shocked that the Night King was behind it. He recalled Ant naming Darius Climon as the captor and confirmed the dark magicians had attacked, destroyed the guardian tree, and imprisoned the villagers. Aiden deduced that Dars Climon was likely one of Sylvita's 3 servants and decided to take Ant on reconnaissance. Tien insisted on joining, claiming it was their territory, which annoyed Aiden. Suddenly, monstrous roars echoed as Luna charged into battle, gleefully tearing through the creatures. Aiden noted her strength and wondered why she seemed obedient despite her violence. Curse agreed she was insane, but Aiden explained that Luna's power and skill suggested she was more than a normal priestess, possibly a high-level one. Realizing no iron-blooded saint had appeared, Aiden resolved to watch her carefully. In the crater, they reached Ant's destroyed village. Ant confirmed the fairy tree had been cut down, its spiritual power exploited by the dark magicians. Aiden questioned why so many humans and fairies were needed. Nearby, Anoa recognized Dares and felt relief, while Tien, furious, prepared to strike. Aiden stopped him, noting Dares was not alone. 7 dark mages stood with him, making a direct attack impossible. Aiden understood that the Night King wasn't ordinary, on par with Sila's power. Even a half-master Dares was stronger than anyone he'd faced, making a fight with villagers too risky. Considering another approach, he asked Curse why he was there. Curse revealed a strange sensation under a tree, something that would shock even Aiden. Realizing the significance, Aiden quickly formed a plan. He confirmed Ant's knowledge of the forest, pressed Tien to commit fully to helping his people, and then sought Luna's aid, promising excitement. Suddenly, monstrous roars erupted. Giant spiders attacked Tien, while more monsters charged from the right. Luna chased them gleefully, treating it as a game. Ant asked if Aiden intended to scare the dark mages. Aiden shook his head. His goal was to awaken a true monster. Deep underground, a massive snake stirred from centuries of slumber. Ant, trembling, admitted shame and anger, blaming himself for his village. Aiden drew his sword, vowing vengeance, and learned Ant's name was Ease. Ease offered a rare treasure, the Ant's tears, as a reward, which Aiden accepted with a smirk, advising him to focus on himself. Channeling magical energy into his sword, Aiden summoned the spirit Maisto. Though incomplete, Maisto was strong enough for the task. He sent the spirit to collect poisonous lizards from the lower forest and deliver them to the crater, reflecting on the advantage of a loyal, high-ranked assistant. The experience strengthened his resolve to grow even more powerful. Turning to EZ, he signals it's time to move. They must save the village. In the crater of an extinct volcano, Dares waits, frustrated by the silence from the 5th village squad. A ripple in a puddle alerts him. He braces for thieves, but the ground trembles and waves of monsters appear. Alarmed, he orders the lab protected. Tien, furious and terrified, charges recklessly, aiming for our boy. Explosions reveal ogres fleeing a mercenary, Maisto, who drives them in panic toward the lab. Dares redirects his soldiers to hold back the advancing wave. Meanwhile, Aiden and Easy slip quietly into the village, navigating narrow paths to an inner chamber. Easy's eyes brighten as he spots imprisoned ants. He rushes to them, relieved yet anxious, noticing too few remained. The ants reveal the missing ones were taken by guards for sacrifice. Easy bows his head, weighed down by guilt, while Aiden quietly reassures him it's not his fault. Stepping forward, Aiden gestures for the others to back off and slices through the bars, freeing the captives. He immediately asks if they know where the missing ones were taken, hoping to uncover the enemy's plan. Aiden believes reaching the captive's location will reveal the enemy's larger plans. Meanwhile, the battle at the laboratory intensifies. Dares fights fiercely, surrounded, as blood red, green, black soaks the ground. Chaos seeps into the earth, awakening a massive dormant snake. Its eyes snap open at the scent of blood, and hunger drives it upward through the soil. Tremors shake the surface. Dares frowns, uncertain, while Aiden smiles knowingly. He realizes the basilisk, king of vipers, has risen. The monstrous serpent bursts forth, towering over Dares, who steels himself and charges undeterred. Curse explains that the basilisk's venom could fell even a master swordsman, speculating it hibernated weakened and its poisonous air has seeped into the forest for ages. Aiden notes it's strange for a basilisk to inhabit these woods, while Curse grumbles at being trapped in a weak body. The creature growls menacingly as Dares holds his ground, committed to his master's plan. Far away, in a dark lab, a magician watches the chaos, seeing the monster wave as an opportunity to accelerate his ruby's creation. Aiden suddenly appears, grabbing the magician and inspecting a glowing stone, realizing it matches the ant's description of a special stone. As he holds it, the ruby bursts into a brilliant glow and merges with him. Surprised, Aiden examines his palm. No visible change appears, and he treats the stone as another burden. Curse, annoyed, questions whether Aiden sees him as mere luggage, while Aiden decides he must resolve the situation quickly. Back on the battlefield, the basilisk's venomous breath scatters the dark magicians. Dares shudders, paralyzed by the poisonous fog, wishing he could borrow his master's power for just a moment. Clenching his sword, he lets out a war cry and strikes. Gasping, he feels a fleeting sense of success and wonders if he's closer to his master's level. Suddenly, a strange voice congratulates him for reviving the swordmaster's legacy. Then a blade pierces him. It's Aiden, coldly declaring Dares should rest in hell, calling him a loyal dog. Agonized, Dares demands his identity. Aiden reveals he was once the master's comrade, then commands his cursed sword to consume Dares. The sword absorbs him completely, leaving only the weapon behind. Aiden reflects on Dares' loyalty, thinking about Sylveta and his fortunate servants. Turning to the fallen basilisk, he's surprised by how easily he defeated it. Curse, amused, questions why Aiden entered its mouth. Grinning, Aiden explains he couldn't miss the chance fangs for weapons, skin for armor, venom for poison immunity. With the remains claimed, he considers visiting the ants. Curse interrupts, serious, pointing to the sky, muttering that a mere snake shouldn't harbor such power. Aiden notices a glowing object, a demonic soul stone. Holding it, he realizes it contains dark energy, explaining the monster's strength. But how did it end up inside the basilisk? He pockets the stone, but his subspace trembles. A pendant from his teacher appears, reacting to the stone. The two objects pull together and merge, leaving Aiden astonished. Aiden wonders if everything was meant to happen. A system message notes the pendant's magic and dark affinity has increased, its full power unrevealed, and it is soulbound. Realizing it once belonged to dark magicians, he angrily throws it, but it immediately returns to his chest. Frustrated, he tries to bite it off, interrupted by rabbits appearing to congratulate him on clearing the dungeon. Aiden glares, demanding if they really claimed he cleared it and where the dungeon core is. Tearful, the rabbits urge him to calm down. Nearby, an owl watches the pendant silently. Aiden confirms whether the forest functions as a dungeon. Rabbits nervously admit it does. Aiden recalls lands can transform into dungeons if enough monster energy lingers and realizes this forest fits that pattern. He questions Rabbits sharply about directing him to the dangerous ant village. Panicked, Rabbits offers frantic excuses, insisting it was a misunderstanding. Aiden coldly decides the hat merchant should know. The mere mention terrifies Rabbits, imagining the ruthless leader deciding his fate. Overwhelmed, he kneels, begging forgiveness and promising to make amends. Aiden watches with satisfaction but sets one condition. Rabbits must sign an exclusive contract, binding him to a single merchant for life, selling all dungeon items exclusively and ensuring complete confidentiality. Horrified and humiliated, Rabbits realizes he has no choice. Rabbits would rather risk everything than sign the life-binding contract, but Aiden's gaze leaves no escape. Completely cornered, Rabbits sulks while Aiden quietly celebrates, planning to extract every coin possible. Suddenly, Tien charges toward him, stormy and determined. Before Aiden can react, Tien places a hand on his shoulder and thanks him, admitting that without Aiden's ruthless plan, saving people and his knights might have been impossible. Aiden internally grumbles at the phrase, ruthless plan, but takes a token Tien hands him, a symbol of his family's loyalty and readiness to support him. Aiden considers how valuable such influential allies might be and wonders whether Tide would approve. but Tyan insists saving their family is what matters. Smirking, Aiden asks about the ants. Tyan shows little interest, saying they aren't his concern but is willing to hear any plans Aiden proposes. Aiden steps forward, asking the ants why they stand guard. Their leader reveals they protect the remains of the fairy tree, grown from a branch of the world tree, a guardian and childhood companion to their tribe. Touching it gently, he whispers a farewell. Aiden watches, reflecting on loyalty, envying the tree for having friends until its last breath. Suddenly, a faint voice calls for help. Startled, Aiden realizes only he can hear it thanks to the fairy spirit on his hand, the Banshee shield. The tree tells him it will soon fall into eternal sleep but doesn't want to leave its friends in grief. It asks Aiden for help. Though not his job, he recalls his journey, smiles softly and agrees. The tree blesses him before fading away. The ants gasp as glowing energy forms in his hands. It is the seed of the fairy tree, capable of restoring what was lost. Shocked, Aiden learns the blessing makes him leader of the ant tribe. As the ants chant his name in loyalty, he mutters curses, wondering what trick the tree pulled. Raising a hand, he jokingly calls the spirit back to pay expenses. Curse, watching, thinks Aiden may truly be chosen by his pendant's will. Days later, the scene shifts to Rome Duchy, where Aiden's father stares at him in disbelief. Aiden's father is glad to see him home, but notes the odd creatures trailing behind him, pointing out that each time he returns, his group only grows. Aiden, equally baffled, explains that the fairy tree tricked him, making him the ant tribe's leader, which is why they settled in Rames. He grumbles but admits the endless supply of ant tears feels like a jackpot. Suddenly, he spots a giant dog racing through the courtyard with Alice on its back while another cries for help. Alice calls it Choco, and Fried explains it's a search dog that kept growing after eating non-stop. It eventually obeyed Alice and became the oversized beast it is now. Watching the chaos, Aiden recalls Curse's words during a hunt when he gave a dog a smell, awakening potion. Likely, Choco later found mana herbs, causing its strange growth. Later, lying in bed, Aiden enjoys being home but feels restless. Curse nudges about his plans, and Aiden declares he'll drink basilisk poison to build toxin immunity. Curse mocks it as a death wish, but Aiden insists he's handled worse. He gulps it down just as Carl enters, turning pale at the sight. Panicking, Carl begs him to spit it out, convinced his brother has lost hope. Aiden insists it's fine, though poison spreads through his body, turning him green. A system message appears. His body is adapting, gaining immunity to all toxins. Enduring the pain, Auden knows he succeeded. As Carl frantically tries to save him, Nikita enters, amused by the chaos, commenting on their closeness. Soon after, Auden sits across from her, curious why she came. She simply says she wanted to greet him properly. Aiden is thrown off when Nikita calls him Mr. and greets him politely. In their past lives, they could barely tolerate each other, so this sudden formality makes no sense. Maybe she wants to finish him off with honor. Nervously, he apologizes for anything he may have done, but she bows, introducing herself as head of the Dark Magic Division, Fires of Florence, leader of the White Moon Information Guild, and last descendant of the Florence family. Her long journey, she says, was to greet the Lord of the Underworld. Aiden freezes as she explains that Talos once called him that, and she saw it. Pointing to his pendant, she says, it's no trinket but a Florence relic, only reactive to their bloodline. That's when Aiden realizes the Florence family are descendants of the Underlord, and that the pendant reacted because of Curse. Annoyed, he glares inward, but Curse shrugs. Aiden never asked. Nikita, meanwhile, regrets her past attitude and pledges full loyalty. Aiden knows she's misunderstood, but sees the advantage. With her undercommand, the entire White Moon network is his. Smiling, he accepts her loyalty, playing the role of Underworld Lord. Later, Curse storms in, scolding him for tarnishing the image of a ruler. Aiden dismisses it, reflecting on how little he knew in his past life, and how the pendant and Nikita keep revealing more. Strange that once he defeated the Underlord, and now he pretends to be him. Meanwhile, in Rome's, near the Monster Mountain, ants greet him cheerfully, busy at construction. One approaches, saying everyone enjoys the forest he gave them. Aiden repeats the question, then says he's glad, though he remembers just picking random land. Aiden remarks that the fairy tree looks normal, just faster growing. Staring at the massive tree towering over the forest, he marvels at how it grew so huge in only 2 days. An ant proudly explains it's thanks to St. Alice who infused the sapling with divine energy. Realizing her powers are far greater than expected, Aiden is then told his deputy has completed all tasks. Surprised, he visits the deputy chief, Ahad, and sees a gloomy egg. He asks if it's a spirit beast egg, and Ahad confirms, sensing spiritual energy within. Aiden recalls suspecting ties to the Church of the Holy Fire, but it's confirmed rare and unlike anything he's seen in both lives. Ahad explains it grows by absorbing energy but seems dormant. Divine or aura energy could awaken it, and the type absorbed would shape the beast water for water dragon, fire for fire dragon. It would also bond with those of matching energy. Aiden realizes he could influence its growth. Ahad then gives him a translated text, saying it's ancient fairy language with mana cultivation techniques. Aiden is disappointed, having hoped for something rarer, but thanks him, and promises more skeleton bone powder next time. Later in his room, Aiden studies the book, tense as he tries to decipher it. He suspects the author is from another continent, likely the East, origin of the Holy Fire cult. Curse asks why he bothers since he already has a technique. Aiden admits it's just curiosity, though he knows Curse is right, it's not very useful. Frustrated, Aiden stood to toss the book aside but froze, staring in disbelief. When Curse asked what was wrong, Aiden silenced him. Though the text was filled with strange terms, he suddenly understood them, similar to a technique his teacher, the King of Mercenaries, had taught, only more advanced. Shocked, he flipped rapidly through the pages, wondering who wrote it, then decided it didn't matter. What mattered was that this could break his limits. Later at the training ground, he concentrated, forming magical energy as the book described Dantine, the core of mana. Combining elements, he created a powerful flow, steam rising around him. Curse panicked, asking if he was alive, while Aiden, amazed, admitted it felt incredible. A system window confirmed he had gained a new mana cultivation method, reduced loss, increased absorption. He marveled at mana circulating so smoothly, then paused, wondering why he felt taller. Glancing at Curse, he noticed the once small creature now appeared grotesque. Disgusted, he scowled, while Curse, reading his thoughts, shouted in outrage. Curse explained his form was returning with Aiden's growth, but Aiden called him a parasite. The Underlord snapped back that without him, rats would have eaten Aiden long ago. Later in his room, Aiden reflected. He couldn't believe he had found an advanced version of his teacher's technique, feeling it was fate. Though he couldn't yet master everything, determination burned. Once he cracked the rest, the next level would follow. Meanwhile, in the Immortalia Empire's slums, a ragged man wandered, cursing the fools of the Magic Tower. They had mocked his idea of fusing magic with technology, dismissing it as absurd. Once close to completion, he had believed recognition awaited, but instead he was discarded like trash. Gustav swore vengeance, but first needed money and an ally. A memory of Aiden at a banquet came back, one of the few who showed real interest in his work. Grinning, Gustav knew exactly who to seek, asking if it was Aiden Rames. Meanwhile, on the Rames Knights field, Ro struck a wooden dummy with sharper focus. He recalled Aiden once asking if he planned to help. Now Ro understood, staying behind had been right, stepping in then would have only hindered. He had vowed to protect Aiden, yet lacked the strength. Determined, he accepted he might never match him, but at least he wouldn't be a burden. Elsewhere, Aiden sat in Joseph's office as he raised Alice's pilgrimage. Aiden was puzzled, but Joseph explained it was church tradition for every saint to travel the continent within a year of awakening. Though Alice was younger than most, she had already agreed, showing fearless resolve. She knew it would be dangerous, but insisted refusing would break sacred rules. Joseph admitted. The high priest added a condition. The saint must be protected by the strongest res. That meant Aiden. He silently cursed the priest's schemes, but Joseph clarified he wasn't forced. After a pause, Aiden accepted, masking it with a calm smile. Curse, surprised, asked if he was sure. Aiden replied that it suited him since he already planned to journey across the continent to exact revenge. His first target would be Silva, the King of Knights. At her name, Curse grinned, sensing Aiden's resolve. Curious, he pressed further. Aiden explained that by custom, the second prince always became head of Urobor's alchemist tower, meaning Calcas's path lay only in alchemy. Shaola had already become the youngest archmage, a terrifying feat. Spica, under the divine slaughter cult's wing, seemed destined to be the next saint like Alice. Curse guessed Aiden targeted Silvetta because he looked easiest. Aiden groaned, telling him to shut it. Silvetta wasn't called King of Knights for nothing. Even with his new mana cultivation, Aiden still had a long way to go and needed training. Their talk broke off when Philip entered, saying a strange man outside wanted to see Aiden. He claimed to be the Mage Kingdom's head and said they'd met at the first prince's birthday. Aiden vaguely remembered Gustav. Soon after, Gustav sat devouring buns like a starved man. Aiden called his name, telling him to slow down. Embarrassed, Gustav apologized, admitting he must look awful compared to how he'd once appeared at the banquet. Suddenly, he declared that Aiden surely understood, the loneliness and sorrow of a genius. Aiden nearly laughed at the ridiculous seriousness but held back, though eventually he broke into laughter. Gustav, misunderstanding, thought Aiden was moved with sympathy and felt relieved. Explaining his research was nearly finished, Gustav begged for support, first asking too much before panicking and lowering it to 500 gold. Aiden stunned him by offering 50,000, even promising more if necessary. Gustav could hardly believe it, asking if he was serious. Aiden nodded but added a condition. Gustav, tense, thought he'd be made a servant of the Rames. Instead, Aiden, gazing out the window, told him to shock the tower, make them regret casting him aside. If Gustav accepted, he'd gain not just funding but a baron's title and the land of Hyde. Still dazed, Gustav asked why. Aiden replied it was a hunch. He believed Gustav would achieve something great. Overwhelmed, Gustav felt tears well. Finally, someone believed in magical engineering and in him. He swore to prove himself and make the tower regret their choice. Aiden smiled at the window, nearly laughing again but holding it back. Gustav, misreading, thought Aiden deeply moved and silently pledged loyalty, convinced he met the noblest man alive. After Gustav left, Aiden sighed in relief. He had nearly choked, suppressing laughter. Curious, Underlord asked if magical engineering was really worth such investment. Aiden replied with a question, and Odin explained that during the last war, magical weapons had been a decisive factor. Without them, Talus's defeat might not have happened. Gustav himself had built the first-generation weapon, revolutionary thanks to Shaolala who powered it. Auden remembered his past life as Auden Albero when the magic tower crumbled in flames. Amid the chaos, a giant fireball struck Gustav's mechanical robot, yet the machine endured. Xiaolola, frustrated, admitted her magic had failed. Impressed, she acknowledged Gustav's creation while he laughed proudly, declaring it the brilliance of magical engineering. He challenged others to test it, boasting their magic was useless against his invention. Intrigued, Xiaolola conjured an even larger fireball to test its limits, while Gustav urged her to abandon magic altogether. Afterward, newspapers reported that even Xiaolola, a seventh-circle archmage, couldn't overpower his invention, sparking recognition for the field. Now, in the present, Aiden stood on his training ground. Nearly a month had passed since Gustav locked himself in his workshop, consumed by building something before the pilgrimage. Aiden also thought of Alice, set to leave tomorrow morning. For a moment, he wondered if he placed too much faith in her, but quickly dismissed it. His focus remained on revenge. Not long after, Ro approached Aiden, asking to join his pilgrimage with St. Alice. He didn't want Aiden traveling alone, and though Aiden doubted his strength at first, he soon noticed Ro seemed different. Ro confidently asked for a chance to prove himself. Accepting, Aiden handed him a sword, curious about his growth. They faced off, and memories of Aiden's past life flickered, how he once joked he could master the sword with 2 hands. Ro attacked fiercely, his speed and power forcing Aiden onto the defensive. Yet his offense left him wide open. Ready to finish it, Aiden struck sharply, only for Ro to block barehanded. The wooden sword, reinforced with aura, shattered. Stunned, Aiden realized Ro's body had changed. Calmly, Ro revealed that while training, he discovered his narrowed mana vessels let him harden his injured hand into stone, turning weakness into a shield. He had lured Aiden in deliberately. Curse looked on in disbelief at such an unusual ability. Though Ro admitted it was nothing compared to Aiden's power, he still asked to join. Aiden walked away in silence, leaving Ro disappointed until he told him to pack, since they were leaving tomorrow. Overjoyed, Ro thanked him, while Aiden, smiling quietly, thought again of his own genius. By morning, Aiden's group gathered with Joseph and Alice for farewells. Joseph held his daughter tightly, begging her to return safely. Alice blushed under everyone's gaze, while Fry joked to his son that he still had much to learn before matching such fatherly devotion. Aiden reassured his father before shifting his focus to the strange-looking carriage. Fry admitted he'd never seen one like it either. Suddenly, Gustav burst in, wild-eyed, proudly unveiling his invention, the first successful product of magical engineering. He claimed he rushed its completion to keep a promise, then launched into a lengthy explanation of its features. Though Aiden admitted it was impressive, he still thought Gustav lived up to the nickname, Maniac. Before leaving, Gustav handed him a manual, warning to use it only as a last resort. Glancing back at the carriage, Aiden felt uncertain. He asked Cassie once more if she was sure about coming. She confirmed confidently, saying an alchemist was always useful for treating injuries and that she longed to escape the mansion. Aiden welcomed her warmly. Soon, Valley appeared, cheerful and well-prepared, saying he hoped they'd get along this time. Aiden suspected the cult had sent him as an escort and felt uneasy about traveling near such strength. With everyone assembled, he gave the command to depart. His journey of revenge had begun. That night, Aiden dreamt of Sylvetta, Spa, Xiaolola, and Calcis trying to kill him. He pleaded for answers but swore no forgiveness, waking in terror. Eldest checked on him, and he asked if she and Choco, her tiny dog, had rested well. At his request, Choco had shrunk her size to stay close. Eldest spoke through her guardian bracelet, crafted from fairy tree bark and gifted by Ant, allowing communication over any distance. Despite the comfort, Aiden remained haunted by the dream. His thoughts were broken when the driver announced their approach to Carton City, reminding him that dwelling on the past was pointless. Resolving to focus on the present, Aiden accepts that trusting others is his only way forward. When they reach Carton, Eldest is startled by the number of armed individuals, though Aiden remains calm, knowing the city's reputation as the mercenary capital and dungeon hub with over 80 clustered dungeons. Fighters from across the lands flock here, and the city's unique architecture reflects its chaotic yet ordered governance under the Mercenary Guild. Despite reading about it before, seeing it firsthand leaves Aiden uneasy. Cassie asks if he had studied the city, while Rose scowls at the mercenaries, disgusted by their dominance. Suddenly, Valley strikes him down without warning, leaving Rose shocked. Ignoring him, Valley presses Aiden about his earlier statements. Aiden confirms, convinced that the same group behind the fall of the Holy Fire Cult is active here. His suspicion stems from vague documents he uncovered in the forest laboratory, pointing to sinister experiments. Valley, astonished and regretful for missing prior events, now feels determined to make up for lost time, aligning himself with Aiden's cause. When asked about strategy, Aiden explains that mercenaries, as wandering adventurers, collect tales from every land. A city full of them is rich in information. He decides they should approach the Medela Guild first to learn what's unfolding. He wonders if they need to appear competent enough for the guild leader to grant an audience. Meanwhile, inside Medela's mercenary guild, a group of young men brag about clearing goblin and cobalt dungeons. As Aiden's party enters, the metallic scent and crowded energy stir his memories. At the counter, a young receptionist greets them and asks their purpose. Aiden explains they wish to register as a mercenary team. Confirming none of them belong to other guilds, she provides a form, finalizing their enrollment once completed. She issues an E-rank bronze token, reminding them to take care of it. Holding it, Aiden recalls receiving one in his early days, though Ellis questions why he doesn't seek the guild leader directly. Aiden knows Marcus Medella, the Swift Blade, avoids unnecessary meetings, but believes climbing ranks quickly will force him to notice. After congratulating them, the receptionist sends them off. Soon, the group heads to the Rabbit's Den dungeon. Valley looks anxious at his first dive, while Aiden reassures him it's the lowest ranked dungeon, though he quietly stays alert. For safety, he leaves Choco and Cassie behind at the inn. Ellis doubts if this path is the only way to reach the guildmaster, but Aiden insists it is, also recognizing Ellis needs combat experience. Low-tier beasts will be valuable training. Remembering, he recalls how his mentor once abandoned him inside a high-level dungeon without warning. As they advance deeper, Ellis spots a rabbit, but before anyone reacts, a swarm of rabbit-like monsters charges. Aiden orders Valley to restrain them, sparing only one. Valley steps forward, weapon ready, and kills a lunging creature in a single blow. The rest freeze, shaken by his power. Issuing a stern warning, Valley makes them hesitate, and Aiden realizes monsters often retreat before overwhelming strength. Soon, Valley signals one forward, while Ellis, still rattled, smashes it down with force, showing she isn't prey. Watching her, Valley is amazed, counting this as her 14th kill, and asks if Aiden trained her. Aiden confirms, though he never expected such results. Normally, priests use divine spells to enhance weapons or bodies, but Alice fuses holy power into her body like mana. He speculates her unique condition, tied to high-grade sweets from Joseph during childhood, may have opened channels that later merged with her saintly awakening. He recalls her flying kick when they first met, realizing her potential then. The Underlord, curious, asks about her, and Aiden explains about Spa, the Iron Blood Saint, whose sacred energy merged with Carnage cult martial arts. As Alice continues, her devastating strikes wipe out the rabbits entirely. Aiden grows uneasy, fearing he created a monster, while the Underlord feels old wounds flare from Spa's past strike. Meanwhile, Alice finds a treasure chest. Aiden reminds them the loot is hers alone, and she eagerly uncovers a bracelet, armor, and mana jewels. As Alice digs deeper into the chest, she finds a strange hat. Suddenly, the Makunse rabbit leaps out, wearing it, and declares itself a benevolent spirit merchant. Alice's face twists with fury as she hurls insults and attacks, though the rabbit easily dodges, flapping its ears to hover. Claiming to be the kindest creature she'll ever meet, it demands respect, but Alice keeps yelling for it to come down, refusing to trust it. Even Aiden feels irritated at its boastful claims. Days later in the Medella Guild, two men discuss the northern dungeon's clearing. One wonders if it's the same group again, amazed 4 people can raid dungeons alone. The other insists he saw their leader, explaining their strength. As they speak, the group enters, and all eyes fix on Valley's imposing frame. Someone questions why they raid low-profit dungeons when their abilities could earn knighthood or allow them to found a guild. At the counter, Alice greets the receptionist, who congratulates them on their 10th cleared dungeon. Aiden thanks her, and she announces his promotion from C to B rank. Just then, a man whispers to her, and she quietly signals the group to follow. Sensing something, Aiden asks what's wrong. She explains Marcus Medella wishes to meet. Inside his chamber, Marcus stands waiting, his gaze heady with authority. Aiden suspects curiosity from rumors led to this summons. To their shock, Marcus bows respectfully to Alice, addressing her as Saint of the Cult of Holy Fire, exposing her identity. Stunned, Alice stiffens while Marcus then greets Aiden. Calmly, he admits he expected their cover to break, just not so soon. Marcus remarks knowingly that nothing escapes him in this city, adding their attempts at secrecy were hardly subtle. Aiden reasons that if Marcus revealed their identities yet still summoned them, he must have a purpose. Marcus confirms and requests Saint Tessalice's help. She's stunned but listens, only for the doors to burst open as a guild member announces an emergency. Miss Charles' fever has returned. Marcus's face darkens with worry, and Aiden realizes with surprise that he has a daughter. Gathered in her room, Marcus explains Charles suffers from a rare illness immune to all cures, and his only hope is Alice's blessing. He pleads for her aid, promising the greatest reward in return. Seeing the chance for alliance, Aiden encourages Alice to try. She steps forward, hands glowing with sacred light, praying for healing. Holy sparks flicker, but even after 10 minutes, nothing changes. Determined, she tries again until Marcus gently stops her, thanking her efforts. He administers medicine instead, which lessens her suffering. Noticing the prepared remedy, Aiden questions him. Marcus admits it's temporary relief purchased at great cost from the Umbra Guild, and fears he may one day sell the guild to afford more. Yet Aiden senses something off. If this were disease or curse, Alice's divine power should have shown results. Instead, only the Umbra medicine works. Troubled, he wonders why. At that moment, the Underlord interjects with certainty, claiming he knows the truth, and commands Aiden to summon the Banshee's shield. Shocked, Aiden reels at the sudden demand. The Underlord explained that the shield acted as a lens to reveal hidden truths unseen by humans. Aiden was shocked to realize the Banshee's shield let him perceive what was normally invisible. Suspicious, he warned the Underlord that Alice would strike if this was a trick. But once he activated the shield, strange visions flooded his eyes, spirits drifting around the girl like a curse. The Underlord confirmed it, while Marcus also stared in disbelief. Aiden recognized them as lost souls, though Marcus compared them to leeches draining life. Though Aiden had used the shield before, he never knew it could expose the spectral world. It made sense now, since the shield contained a fragment of the banshee itself. Usually, only a spirit or two would cling to someone, but this girl was surrounded by many, which alarmed him. The Underlord explained she had a rare spiritual affinity that naturally drew spirits. With such resonance, one could even become a spirit sorcerer. But her depth far surpassed the norm, making her a magnet for restless souls that threatened her life. Aiden finally understood why divine power hadn't reacted to her. Her affinity explained it. He demanded the Underlord remove them, and with a grin, the spirits were banished by curse. Instantly, Marcus noticed the girl's condition improve and asked if she felt better, relieved by the change. Aiden confirmed the spirits were gone, but warned it was temporary. Then, the Underlord remarked on something odd. Someone with such strong energy should have a guardian spirit, yet strangely, only wandering ghosts remained. Aiden wondered if the girl simply hadn't bonded with her guardian spirit yet, but the Underlord disagreed, stating that without such protection she'd already be consumed. Aiden guessed a benevolent spirit might still be watching, only to learn the truth. The contracted spirit had vanished. Confused, he asked how a spirit could abandon its bond, since death should invite another to take its place. The Underlord explained that wasn't what happened here. Troubled, Aiden began considering ways to locate it, and the Underlord advised that spirits could best be tracked through others, since all are linked to the spirit realm. Glancing at his bracelet, Aiden decided to summon EZ. Appearing casually, EZ teased about their long absence, but Aiden immediately asked about tracing spirits. EZ admitted he couldn't, though his partner could. He introduced Sophia, a wind spirit sensitive to spiritual movements. At Aiden's request, Sophia searched and located the missing spirit tied to the girl in Catan. The results stunned everyone. She had found Plague, spirit of epidemic. The revelation shook Aiden, while EZ explained Plague had once been praised as generous, fond of sharing spirit stones, though missing for a month. Aiden considered the link between spirit stones and leash remains, suspecting Plague had left signs for others. EZ added that Plague was deeply scarred by humanity's rejection, branded a bringer of suffering, and feared humans. Aiden understood, realizing the spirit's name alone inspired dread, and thanked EZ for the help before promising they'd speak again. Aiden began explaining everything to Marcus, but Marcus interrupted, saying he already understood. He recalled tales of his wife's grandfather, once a spirit summoner, and realized his daughter must have inherited the same gift, her guardian's disappearance leaving her exposed. Aiden assured him there was no need for guilt. What mattered was finding the lost spirit. Rora then raised a question. If spirits drained the girl, how had medicine helped? Marcus admitted mistrust toward the pill's source, though they worked. Cassie revealed the harsh truth. The pills were poison. They suppressed mana so completely that spirits believed the host dead and detached, but long-term use would kill her. Marcus was horrified, realizing he had unknowingly poisoned his child. Aiden then questioned how the Umbra Guild knew the cause so precisely. The formula was too exact. Marcus grew tense yet thanked Aiden, vowing to handle things. But anger flared as he cursed Umbra, ready for revenge. Aiden stopped him, warning that recklessness would let them feign ignorance. He promised a plan to expose the truth properly. Later, inside Medela Guild's office, Marcus spread documents on the Umbra Guild profiles, leader Talon Umbra's record, base layouts. Aiden quickly noticed the intelligence was shallow, offering names and places but no true leverage. The Underlord remarked on the volume but asked if Aiden sought someone specific. Calmly, Aiden admitted he was searching for someone he could manipulate, perhaps a familiar face from his past life. As they examined the files, the Underlord pointed at one photo labeled Arand, asking if Aiden recognized him. Aiden squinted at the image, the name stirring no memory. Something unexplainable stirred within him as he studied the man's face. The name was new, but the aura wasn't. In Carton's bustling streets, the Umbra Guild filled a cafe with laughter and drinks. At a corner sat the Lord of Rims, visibly annoyed by their noise. Spotting his displeasure, a guild member approached, but he calmly denied any issue. Their leader, Armand, soon called him over, urging him to join. The man obeyed quietly. Once, this man had been Uncle, master of the Caraberos Guild. Failure was unknown to him until a reckless mercenary destroyed everything. His guild collapsed, members deserted, and the rise of Joseph's daughter as the saint of the cult of Holy Fire forced him to vanish. To survive, he altered his name and appearance, hiding within Umbra. Confident none of the three great cults could trace him, he lived under the new name Armand. Suddenly, Aiden called out to him, first by his alias, then his true name. Outrage spread among the guild, but Armand's irritation deepened as he questioned how Aiden had found him. Outside, Aiden struck swiftly, leaving them all defeated. Though battered, he admitted Armand looked unrecognizable. Armand humbly acknowledged the recognition, yet panic filled him. He feared Aiden would hand him to the cult. Still, clinging to hope, he begged for mercy, offering information in return. Relieved, Aiden knew his task had grown easier. Soon after, he escorted Armand into the Medela Guild's private office. Inside the office, Marcus, the guildmaster, directly questioned Armand about Umbra's ties to human experimentation. Without denial, Armand confessed, explaining that Carton, crowded with dungeons and constant disappearances, provided the perfect cover to gather test subjects unnoticed. Aiden's suspicions of dark mages resurfaced, prompting him to ask for the location. Armand hesitantly revealed rumors of a dungeon on the city's outskirts. The revelation stunned Aiden, who clarified that dungeons were controlled by spirit merchants. Once cleared, merchants collected loot, and the dungeon vanished. Such experiments inside them were unnatural. Spirit merchants, bound by strict codes, never harmed humans, but any unauthorized intruders could be eliminated without restraint. At full strength, their authority was absolute. The Underlord pressed why they tolerated Umbra's presence. Aiden explained that only massive bribes silenced them. Merchants, lured by profit, struck secret deals and withheld reports from the Spirit Emporium. The explanation unsettled Marcus, who questioned how a single guild managed on such a scale. Turning to Armand, he asked who backed them. Fearful, Armand resisted, until Aiden's stern warning about handing him to the cult of Holy Fire broke his silence. Trembling, he confessed that Umbra's benefactor was none other than the Grand Duke of Serriers. Marcus's face darkened at the revelation of such a prestigious faction allying with criminals. Worse, Armand added that other organizations were also involved. Marcus realized the crisis was far deeper than expected, with Serriers' influence making rash action impossible. Meanwhile, Aiden grew convinced Sylvetta was tied to these experiments. With the truth surfacing, he prepared to crush everything, while Marcus cautioned that the Grand Duke was no simple foe. Still, Aiden refused to back down. He demanded to know how Marcus could ignore those who dared harm their daughter, urging him to strike and swearing to help crush both the Umbra Guild and the House of Sires. The Underlord then asked if Aiden's thirst for revenge had finally awakened. Marcus, studying him, admitted that Aiden's compassion even in anger was rare, yet he confessed he didn't know where to begin. Aiden, however, quickly thought of Sylvetta, convinced she was hiding more disgraceful schemes, and resolved to expose and destroy them. Meanwhile, in the rabbit merchant's territory, a small rabbit sat pondering. As a spirit trader, he knew dungeon cores were actually dense mana clusters, making them priceless. Yet he wondered how his life had sunk to serving Aiden. His thoughts were cut short by Merchant Pest, infamous for impatience. Pest stormed in, scolding him for poor profits and stagnant growth. Bowing his head, the rabbit apologized, though resentment brewed inside. Pest mocked him as unworthy of advancement, demanded gratitude, then ordered a sack of mana stones. The rabbit hesitated briefly, but Pest snapped, forcing him to hand them over. Greedily consuming the batch, Pest muttered about wasting everything to court a spirit but insisted success would come soon. Outwardly obedient, the rabbit smiled, yet inside he vowed the tables would one day turn. At the Umbra Guild's back gate, guards stiffened in shock as a group approached. Without pause, Dares strode forward with bold confidence and ordered them to step aside. The guards froze at Dares' audacity, demanding he leave at once. Dares raised his voice, scoffing at their disrespect, and pointed to his black armor and massive sword, daring them to recognize him. The men whispered nervously about a dark knight clad in black steel. Finally, Dares declared himself Dares Kleiman, Dark Knight of Lord Sylvetta, and ordered the guildmaster's presence. Hours earlier, in their dorm, Underlord asked if Aiden planned to recklessly charge in again. Excited, Aiden admitted he would, but with purpose this time. Underlord mocked if he meant barging in politely, and Aiden cheerfully confirmed. Explaining further, he reminded him that the Sire's Grand Duchy backed the Umbra Guild, so entering with a Sire's Knight meant no resistance. Frustrated, Underlord protested at relying on Sylvia, his rival Night King, but Aiden clarified he wouldn't ask for help, only use the authority of the Dark Knight once trapped in Volleyball. Later, in the Guildmaster's office, Talon Umbra greeted Dares with honor, unaware the true knight was dead. Aiden silently noted their ignorance, amused that no one would admit losing such a figure. Talon apologized for his guard's rudeness and asked about Aiden. Underlord introduced him as a dark mage subordinate, nothing more. Satisfied, Talon asked the purpose of the visit. Underlord praised his insight, saying it was an inspection to confirm progress, and requested access to the dungeon. Through secret passages beneath the guild, they descended. Aiden marveled at the hidden chambers until his eyes widened at cages packed with countless monsters. The chaos struck him, raising questions about the twisted experiments behind such a collection. Proudly, Talon announced they'd made a breakthrough, gesturing to two figures on beds. He introduced them as their latest creations, subjects B12 and B14, who immediately rose at his command before Aiden. The two figures looked like ordinary humans. Talon explained their forms had been preserved but enhanced with troll regeneration and ogre strength. With pride, he urged them to watch. The test subjects demonstrated explosive sword techniques, their blades flaring with an unusual aura. Auden realized in shock it wasn't ordinary sword aura but high rank. Talon boasted they had perfected control, erasing fear of rebellion. Soon, mass production would begin. He named them the Berserk Blood Knights, undying warriors destined to serve Lord Sylvetta. Aiden's mind reeled. He knew of Blood Knights. Underlord asked if he recognized them, perhaps from another life. He explained they were once the elite of Sylvea's Grand Duchy, heroes of the Monster Waves and Talos War. Their fearless charge earned Sylvea the title Night King. Aiden, unsettled, wondered if such horrific methods had always birthed these knights. Talon shifted to their earlier discussion, claiming they'd solved the problem of bodies rejecting monster essence. Curious, Underlord pressed for details, while Aiden sensed something behind a door. Talon opened it, revealing a chamber glowing strangely. Inside stood a figure that froze Aiden, the sealed spirit of epidemic plague. Talon explained they had extracted its power, the lycanthrope curse, the werewolf's mark. He revealed a spirit merchant had guided him, and fate delivered it already bound to Medella's daughter. Boasting, he claimed the gods favored him, and soon Marcus and the Medella Guild would fall. By then, Aiden had heard enough. He opened his mouth, but Talon snapped in fury, demanding who dared interrupt. Rage crackled until Aiden shouted a command to kill him, leaving Talon stunned. His confusion deepened as he questioned Aiden's right to command, but Underlord struck before he could reply. They moved to escape, with Aiden declaring it was time to rescue the spirit and end everything. Talon wasn't finished, he returned wounded but furious, shouting that the one they brought wasn't human. Pouring all his strength into a counterattack, he launched at both of them. Aiden thought the strike landed, but Underlord pointed his sword, demanding the truth about who Talon really was. Aiden's disbelief grew when he saw the Dark Knight's soul stab Talon, yet the man still stood. His body warped into something monstrous before he slashed at them, spilling blood. The fight escalated, blows exchanged without restraint. Aiden watched Talon's body regenerate, horrified as he realized Talon had become a Blood Knight. Talon laughed, admitting he'd absorbed power to break past his limit, praising Aiden for controlling the Dark Knight's soul. He offered Aiden the same power and a guild executive's rank. Aiden briefly considered it, then rejected him, questioning if the guild would even survive. Enraged, Talon snapped, but before he could act, the doors burst open. A guard rushed in, breathless, reporting disaster. The Medella Guild had invaded, Marcus himself leading the assault, and without Talon, their guild was doomed. Talon's face twisted in shock at Marcus's arrival. His glare shifted to Aiden as suspicion turned into certainty. He was convinced Aiden had orchestrated everything. Aiden didn't flinch. Calmly, he confirmed the accusation and mocked Talon for not appreciating his surprise. Rage consumed Talon as he cursed and charged, vowing to kill him. Their swords clashed, but Talon froze in disbelief. Aiden's technique wasn't ordinary. It was the Dragon Slayer King's scale, a move made to pierce dragon scales. Heat rippled, flames erupted, but Aiden struck cleanly, sending Talon crashing down. Bleeding and panicked, Talon failed to regenerate. The burning wound wouldn't heal. Aiden judged him coolly, remarking that only Swordmaster should achieve such mastery, yet he had surpassed limits. He demanded Talon surrender. Trembling with humiliation, Talon screamed in denial, invoking the dungeon's power. Declaring himself its contractor, he summoned the spirit merchant Pest. A cloaked figure floated down, face hidden beneath a cap, eyes fixed on Talon. From above, the merchant questioned the situation. Watching closely, Aiden realized this was the one who sold the dungeon, kidnapped the spirit of Epidemic, and deceived the hat merchant. His suspicions solidified into certainty. The merchant scowled, annoyed Talon had wasted the free emergency summon, noting he must be desperate. Talon admitted it, begging him to kill Aiden at any cost. The merchant hesitated, warning intervention carried a price. Talon offered everything: power, wealth, influence, just to see Aiden dead. Grinning, the merchant accepted. His form swelled, towering as his true strength filled the space. Underlord recognized it as the genuine power of a spirit merchant. Strength once restrained by Emporium rules, now equal to a swordmaster. But Aiden disagreed, insisting the power far surpassed human limits. Calmly, he reminded the merchant of the consequences of interfering in dungeons. The merchant smirked, unconcerned, promising Aiden's death unless caught. Aiden warned such arrogance always led to downfall. Though his fists clenched, he knew defeating a spirit merchant here was impossible unless he used his last resort. Suddenly, a commanding voice echoed, confirming Roberts' report. Pest froze, alarm spreading. A man entered with guards radiating authority. Aiden's eyes widened. The one he had waited for had arrived. Facing a spirit merchant only required summoning a ranked higher. The newcomer smiled, greeting Pest after a long time. Pest quickly removed his hat and bowed in respect. It was the president, the hat merchant herself. Among spirit merchants, her authority ranked just below the Spirit King. Though without gender, she was often called she and only appeared in the human realm for two reasons: to warn of major dungeon shifts or to deal with severe violations among spirit merchants. A few hours earlier, Pest was stunned when asked to call the president hat merchant. Aiden explained that Encall revealed a spirit trading with the Umber Guild, which violated Spirit Emporium rules. Since defeating a spirit merchant inside a dungeon was impossible, Pest needed to explain the situation and summon her. Though he muttered that she was far too busy, he reluctantly agreed. Aiden thanked him, calling him a friend, but that only enraged Pest, who shouted back, offended by the word, and admitted he also feared the president. Soon after, the hat merchant arrived with calm dignity, thanking Rabbits, who assured her it was no problem. Aiden felt thrilled by her timing and praised Rabbits, while Talon quietly wondered who she was if even Pest feared her. Pest, shocked, stammered that there must be a misunderstanding, but she cut him off sharply, asking what excuse he could possibly mean. Her voice turned stern as she demanded if he truly believed she wouldn't know. Pest froze as she revealed she had long known of his fraudulent schemes, hoping he would change, but now that hope was gone. The room fell silent as Pest tried to defend himself, but she cut him short and declared him fired. The words struck him like a thunderclap, leaving him in disbelief. With a calm gesture, she raised her hand, then turned to Aiden, apologizing for the Emporium's trouble. Though Aiden assured her it was fine, she insisted words weren't enough. She handed him a box, a gift, which he accepted with surprise, realizing its worth. As she prepared to leave, Aiden stopped her, asking permission to pose one question. Pointing toward a nearby creature, he asked how he could save the spirit of epidemic trapped inside. The merchant listened carefully before explaining that the child's consciousness would not return even if the external seals were broken. The only way was through a formal contract, though she hinted at another option he might consider. Perhaps better than binding the spirit. Aiden guessed she meant vanishing the spirit and silently reflected on her words. With her answer given, she prepared to leave. Aiden thanked her sincerely, and she wished him well by name, calling him Aiden Albero. The moment froze him in shock. His heart skipped as he demanded to know how she knew that name, but she gave no reply and departed with rabbits, leaving him unsettled. Underlord, watching, asked if she had spoken his past life name. Aiden, bewildered, wondered aloud if beings like her truly knew of his reincarnation, realizing there was more to her than he understood. With a weary smile, he noticed Talon lying on the ground nearby. The next day in Carton City, crowds buzzed over newspapers. Rumors spread that the Umbra Guild had been destroyed after being exposed for kidnapping dungeon survivors and experimenting on them. Citizens expressed shock and relief, thankful to Medela Guild and Marcus for stopping them. Inside the Guildmaster's office, Aiden read the news while remarking that Marcus had become a city hero. Marcus credited Aiden, admitting that without him, both the guild and his daughter would have been lost. Still, he voiced concern over trusting the man Aiden recommended. At that moment, Shandulkan burst in, declaring he would give everything. Aiden, still reading, said Medela needed a figurehead. Shandulkan had experience as guildmaster and wouldn't betray them. If he did, Aiden vowed to chase him to death. Shandulkan only laughed, insisting he knew nothing of betrayal. Nearby, Underlord quietly asked if Aiden planned to tell Marcus about chaos in the Grand Duchy of Sareers. Aiden replied it was pointless. Sylveta's power could suppress the truth. For now, he needed strength to truly defeat him. Aiden reasoned that he had to move slowly, waiting for the right moment. He mentioned the cult of Holy Fire, the Forest of Death, and all that had unfolded in Carton City. Marcus then brought up the child sealed in stone, debating whether to contract with the spirit of epidemic plague or shatter the stone and let it vanish. That would force them to seek another spirit for Charles. Aiden warned time was short, reminding him the spirit had done nothing wrong. Marcus admitted he knew, but people still feared it because of Rodier, the plague alchemist who ruined the southern continent. Though unfair, Marcus stayed resolute. Drawing his sword, he approached the stone and whispered an apology before striking, until the door burst open. Charles rushed in, shouting for her father to stop. Shocked, Marcus tried to ask how she knew, but she refused to listen, declaring the spirit inside was her friend. She wouldn't let him hurt it. Aiden silently thought this burden was too heavy for her, which was why he had kept it secret. But another girl arrived and admitted she told Charles everything. Everyone turned to see Charles step forward with conviction, claiming the spirit as her own. She said the choice should be hers and insisted she was simply protecting her friend. Marcus tried to reason with her, warning it was dangerous, but Charles' voice rose with emotion. He didn't understand. The spirit had always protected her, and now she would protect it. With intensity, she shouted her story. At age 5, terrified in a back alley, a monster had closed in on her. She begged it not to attack, and just as it struck, a spirit appeared and saved her. From that moment, she knew someone was by her side. Even when her mother disappeared, even when she cried after hurting her leg, the spirit never left. Though a saintist once claimed her sickness came from dead souls, Charles insisted this spirit was what kept her safe. Through angry tears, Charles asked if everyone who protected her had to leave. Must this spirit, her only true friend, vanish like her mother? She stood firm, refusing to lose it. Marcus tried to stop her, but she shouted louder, demanding only one answer. If she made a contract with this spirit, would he hate her too? His anger flared, but not at her. He declared there was no way he could ever hate her. That was enough. She cared only for her father and her friend. Begging him to accept the spirit as family for caring when her mother could not, she held on. Overcome, Marcus dropped to his knees, hugged her tight, and promised only her happiness mattered. Later, in Medela's guild office, Marcus sat with Aiden and Dev. With heartfelt gratitude, he thanked Aiden, who calmly brushed it off, reminding him it was part of their deal. Then Aiden asked if Marcus truly accepted Charles as sorcerer of the spirit of epidemic. Marcus admitted no, but if it made her happy, he would raise her well and treat the spirit as a blessing. Remembering her smile, he believed the spirit part of their family. Aiden then offered something startling, a recommendation to House Rams. Stunned, Marcus hesitated, but Aiden explained Charles must master spirit sorcery to control Rodoera's power, and that estate housed spirits for her to learn from. Still unsure, Marcus asked why Aiden helped so much. Aiden explained plainly, when the time came, he would need Charles' aid. Marcus agreed, promising their support. Their handshake sealed a friendship. Meanwhile, far to the north, Sylveta stood with his guard amid a blood-soaked massacre. The Umbra Guild had fallen, leaving Sylveta seething. His guard lowered his head, reporting that the Crimson Knight suspected Dare's involvement, since the enemy wielded a sword identical to his. Chaos suffered heavy losses, and their research would now stall. Sylveta erupted in fury, cursing the traitors of the fallen kingdom for betraying his trust. Suddenly, a violent force struck him, sending him collapsing to the ground. His guard rushed to offer a potion. Though reluctant, he drank, scoffing at the irony of relying on remedies made by people he despised. He cursed the monster wave 7 years ago that had crippled his mana core. At least it hadn't exploded, sparing him from going berserk. Crushing the potion bottle, he vowed to find a gem to repair his core. Only then could he ascend to Grandmaster and claim the title of Grand Duke. His body ached, but his ambition burned fiercer than pain. Meanwhile, in Carton City, Aiden studied a strange stone the hat merchant had given him. Underlord immediately recognized it as a contract stone once owned by the Dragon Slayer King. Such stones allowed bonds with spirits or beasts, even for those with low affinity. All Aiden needed was to pour in his mana. Curious, he did so, and the stone erupted with light. Fire exploded, filling the room in a dazzling blaze. Yet when Aiden touched it, there was no heat, no burn, only a strange familiarity. The sensation triggered a memory, just as a commanding voice echoed with disdain, demanding who dared summon such power in this small space. Underlord, unsettled, muttered that Aiden had just awakened something absurd. In shock, Underlord realized the presence before them was a mythical ranked spirit beast. In his past life, he had seen many contract with spirits, but none had ever reached such heights, certainly not through an ordinary stone. How Aiden had managed this was beyond comprehension. Aiden, confused, asked if he was the one who summoned her. The calm, powerful voice corrected him. It was she who had sought him out. Introducing herself as the king of immortal birds, she explained her child owed its life to him. Aiden struggled to recall until the bird reminded him of when he saved her child from a troll. Grateful as both mother and sovereign, she had come, yet something about him startled her. When pressed, she revealed his body carried immense burdens, poison tied to resurrection, demonic taint, a banshee's shield, and even a deadly curse. Underlord raged at her words while Aiden, shaken, asked if she intended to contract with him. She admitted normally no human could endure her essence, but the mysterious stone within him might allow it. Realization struck Aiden, the stone from the forest of death. Even she confessed she didn't know its true nature, only that legends spoke of such stones overpowering even rulers. Despite his weakness, she believed he could withstand her power and offered a contract. Aiden accepted, knowing such a chance would never come again. She introduced herself as Pyranus, child of the first flames, and asked his full name. When he answered, she hesitated, then asked if he was also Adin Albero. At his confirmation, the bond sealed, a message resonating within his mind. He had just forged a mythical spirit contract. Days later, at Carton's northern gate, Saintus sat in silence, reflecting on bonds formed and lost. A nearby girl reassured her, promising she would meet that person again. After the secret pilgrimage, a boy across from them vowed to ask Joseph for permission to visit Carton City, wondering if the young master was still asleep. Elsewhere, Aiden lay on a bed, studying a smooth block in his hand, a rare S-rank mercenary token he hadn't held in years. When his companions entered, one inspected it and confirmed it was indeed the white gold token reserved for S-rank mercenaries, while another admitted he only received one for B-rank. Marcus proudly praised Aiden, explaining mercenary ranks were based on ability and achievements, though anyone could rise with effort. He credited Aiden's progress to his wife's support before asking their destination. Aiden replied they were bound for Cyreers, where something important awaited him. Seeing the weight behind his words, Marcus revealed his suspicion that someone from Cyreers was tied to a past tragedy. He noted Aiden's anger whenever the name arose and admitted he sought revenge for his daughter. Offering his loyalty, he asked for Aiden's help. Aiden agreed without hesitation, bound by shared purpose. That night, Aiden rested until a guard entered, announcing they were nearing their destination. With steady focus, he opened his eyes as the Grand Duchy of Cyreers came into view, its beauty stretching across the land. Entering downtown, they found the streets overflowing with nobles, knights, and citizens. One girl noted the massive crowd, and Aiden explained it was for the Martial Arts Duel Fest, an ancient winter tournament honoring Jorger Cyreers, who once sealed the Winter Queen. The festival, one of the continent's grandest, lifted spirits during monster attacks each winter. To their surprise, Aiden revealed he would participate. While most cheered, one boy questioned the risk, and Underlord reminded him their mission was revenge. Aiden nodded, confirming his resolve had not changed. Aiden explained that the tournament's champion would earn a reward from Cyreers' vault and a rare elixir, the key to reaching Grandmaster rank as he once did in his past life. More importantly, he added, something monumental would follow the festival. Underlord pressed for clarity, and Aiden revealed that once the Duel Fest ended, the Winter Queen, once sealed by Jorger Cyreers, would awaken. A reincarnated spirit ruling the dead, she turned lands into legendary dungeons whenever she stirred, drawing ruins straight into the northern continent, Cyreers included. In response, 6 knight families, with the Grand Duchy and Duel Fest elites, marched against her, but the campaign collapsed, leaving survivors hollow and broken. When despair consumed the continent, Sylvetta appeared with his blood knights, turning the tide and defeating her. His victory earned him the title of Night King and the Grand Dukedom. Now, Aiden recalled Sylvetta from his past life, yet the man before him no longer resembled that noble figure. Quietly, he vowed first to win the Duel Fest, then join the expedition against the Winter Queen, and when Sylvetta grew weary, he would end him. Lost in thought, Aiden drew Alice's curious gaze. She wondered if the food displeased him, but he assured her it did not. Valley lightened the mood, marveling at how packed the restaurant was, and joking that some grand celebration must be underway. Surrounded by laughter and warmth, Aiden allowed himself a faint smile at the sight of such joy. As they ate, a stranger politely asked to join, introducing himself as Lao, a mercenary. Aiden returned the courtesy, mentioning his own expedition. Alice asked about Lao's companion, and he introduced his shy younger brother Liddell. Before he could continue, Cassie cut in with a teasing jab at the figure beside Aiden, calling him a war-tiger, then smirking as she corrected herself to war-cat. Cassie's teasing voice carried a playful edge. Lao faltered at first, but she brushed it off with a laugh while the war-tiger calmly introduced himself as Bayuk. Cassie followed with her own name, and Aiden watched curiously, sensing these travelers were far from ordinary. Bayuk replied with dry wit, amused at being judged by someone traveling with a war-cat. Meanwhile, Alice's eyes caught on something in Liddell's hands. Startled, the shy youth revealed a baipa, admitting he was their bard. Though hesitant, he began to play. Soft, graceful notes soon filled the air, weaving warmth through the room. Conversations faded, and a hush fell as even Underlord remarked that the boy was channeling mana into the music, a rare gift. When Liddell finished, flushed with embarrassment, applause thundered. Cassie praised the beauty of his playing, Lao beamed with pride, and Alice gushed with excitement. Lao teased that his little brother had found a fan, while Bayuk smirked, asking if he enjoyed the attention. Liddell groaned, calling him Grandpa in protest. Soon after, Lao said they had to leave to prepare for the martial arts duel fest. That piqued Aiden's interest, and he asked if Lao was competing. When Lao confirmed his name, Aiden's expression sharpened. They stood facing each other, and with clear resolve, Aiden declared he too was entering. Lao smirked, warning that sharing a meal wouldn't earn him mercy, before departing. As silence settled, Underlord eyed Aiden suspiciously. He questioned the aura Aiden released, an undeniable killing intent. Aiden grew serious, saying he had realized Lao's identity. Not someone he met before, but a name carried in stories, a swordsman traveling with an elder beast, a past champion of the martial arts fest, and a warrior whispered about in fear. The title struck hard. Lao, the evil-slaying sword demon. Recognition dawned in Underlord's eyes as he realized this was the same Lao from Aiden's past life, though the reason behind the name remained unclear. Aiden recalled that after winning the tournament and claiming the elixir, Lao vanished, never joining the mission against the Winter Queen. 2 years later, he reappeared, not as a hero, but as a homicidal monster. Meanwhile, Aiden and his group arrived at a breathtaking new location. Alice, still curious, asked if his friend was truly letting them use the place free of charge. Aiden assured her it was theirs, though Valley raised doubts, suggesting that relying on personal connections during a pilgrimage went against its purpose of humility and learning from ordinary life. Aiden countered calmly, arguing that influence was also part of reality, and this experience would be just as meaningful, especially for Alice. Later, Aiden met Nikita. She welcomed him warmly and reported that, with his intel, several Chaos branches had been destroyed, though those linked to Cyriers seemed to be retreating. She added that tensions had risen between the Chaos and a thunderstorm knight named Sylvetta. Reflecting on the chaos at the Imperial Palace, the Holy Fire Cult's downfall, the Forest of Death experiments, and the Blood Knight's twisted schemes at Umber Guild, Aiden was no longer surprised. Still, he asked if the enemy might have discovered he was the mastermind. Nikita reassured him the chance was slim, praising him as the noble master of the underworld, able to confront corruption directly. For a fleeting moment, Aiden wondered if she was blushing, remembering their dark past, but he shifted focus and asked about the item he requested. Nikita revealed 7 gleaming ingots of stellenium, his eyes lit with awe at the mineral's strength, magical conductivity, and volatile energy. So rare most never saw even a fragment. He thanked her sincerely, though she downplayed the effort. Then, with quiet curiosity, she pressed him about his plans for it. Aiden explained that he intended to forge armor for himself. Though armed with sword and shield, he had yet to find armor that met his standards. Nikita warned him that forging with stellenium was no easy task and that smiths skilled enough to handle it were rare. But Aiden assured her he already knew the right man. In the alleys of Cyriers, the Underlord grew frustrated after nearly 2 hours of fruitless wandering. Aiden dismissed each spot with a quiet, "not here," leaving the Underlord doubtful the blacksmith even existed. But Aiden stayed confident, and finally, his eyes lit up at a worn door marked only by a hammer symbol. The Underlord scoffed that it looked abandoned, but Aiden calmly produced a hidden key, unlocking its true entrance. Inside, the Underlord immediately recognized the subspace magic. Aiden explained that this Earth-blessed race could create workshop dimensions and control entry, granted through their S-rank badge. As they moved deeper, a gruff voice thundered. It was the blacksmith Hitos. Aiden declared his intent to commission armor, surprising him since such requests were rare. The Underlord muttered disbelief that this grumpy old man was the famed craftsman, but Aiden reminded him that every piece of armor he once wore in their past battle came from Hitos. Hitos eyed Aiden skeptically, doubting someone so frail could truly be S-rank. Aiden offered to show his badge, but Hitos scoffed, grumbling that the world must be broken if weaklings carried elite ranks. With a sharp glare, he waved Aiden off, claiming he had no equipment for him and that he should find another blacksmith. With a teasing smile, Aiden mentioned he had hoped to share a drink, specifically the Tears of the White Dragon, a legendary white wine. He added mockingly that perhaps he should search for another blacksmith instead. The moment Hitos heard the wine's name, his expression froze in shock, unable to believe Aiden possessed such a treasure. Pretending to leave, Aiden turned away, and just as expected, the old blacksmith quickly called him back. Soon, the two sat together, sharing the rare liquor. One sip left Hitos visibly impressed, savoring it with delight. He asked Aiden's name, which was given calmly. Hitos praised the wine, recalling it as the finest he had tasted since Balkan gifted him a bottle nearly 20 years ago. That name stirred Aiden's memory. He remembered Hitos berating Balkan for taking a sword without permission. Setting aside his glass, Aiden shifted the talk to his true purpose. Hitos, softened by nostalgia and wine, laughed heartily. After receiving such a gift, he couldn't let Aiden leave empty-handed. Confidently, he told him to name his request, declaring there was no weapon or armor beyond his ability. Aiden reflected on the reunion, recalling that the armor would be finished in 4 days, well before the Winter Queen's awakening in 10. With the key to Hitos' forge in hand, he knew it would prove useful. For now, though, while waiting for the gear, they headed to the Grand Temple of Sires for the pilgrimage, only to find the crowd chanting Alice's name. The crowd erupted in celebration, calling Alice their saint. She greeted them warmly, her words filling them with joy as people longed for even a glance. Watching her soak in the attention, the Underlord quietly noted her enjoyment, and Aiden allowed her the moment. Soon, they arrived at the Sarir's branch of the Cult of Holy Fire, where a man stepped forward, introducing himself as Barkas, the High Priest. The Underlord found it odd such an ordinary-looking man held the title, but Aiden reminded him appearances here were often deceiving. Barkas warmly welcomed them, honoring the presence of the saint. Aiden introduced himself, surprised by the overwhelming reception Alice received, her popularity far beyond expectations.